The same amount of damage as the rest of his team combined as well. So yeah, when it comes to complete slaughterings, yeah, that's
would get POG, I won then.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna give you guys a glimpse behind the veil. I actually just stole the POG paper, ticked the keen button, and then put it up on the desk where it needs to go, because I think everyone knows exactly where that's going. Hopefully, he's actually going to get 18 out of 9 instead, because I think everyone deserves to double vote for him this time around. But, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to go to a short break. We'll see whether Gen G can rally for game number 2. Don't go anywhere.
나 왔어. 야,
야 이거 앞라인부터 볼배 이거 재울게. 볼배 재울게. 조이 높여. 볼배 재웠어. 밑에.
천천히 봐. 수면 조심하고.
왜 높여?
조이 높여. 야, 개 노틸러스 어떡할 거야.
미드 가자.
밑에 가서 국내선.
방금 뭐야? 신인가 나? 3인분 막았네 얘들아?
어디 있어?
아니 얘들아 뭐야 나?
형 이거 보이스 의식하는 거야? 왜 그런
아니 개지렸는데 방금 나? 와
거야? 보이스 의식하는 거야?
아니 개지렸 뭐야?
잘했어.
형아 너 진짜 행복하겠다 이런 쪽 보지라 와
형 보이스 의식 너무 하는 거 아니야?
아니 방금 진짜 뭐야? 나 들어갔다 올게
그럼 특별히 하자. 특별히 퀸.
그래.
미드 가. 내가 근데 퀸 진짜 지옥 보낼 수 있긴 해. 진짜 미드 가. 진진아 잡사니. 그냥 탑 갈래? 뭐야 형 편한 대로 해. 나 둘 다 편해. 그래? 그럼 나 미드 갈래.
꿀잼 몰카 시작.
아 뭐야? 얘가 미드.
아지르가 타봤는데?
아 라인 바꿨네.
라인 한번 바꿀 턴 잡긴 해야 될 것 같은데.
너 편한 대로 하면 돼. 형 CS 버려도 상관없거든.
형 나 근데 편한 턴이 잘 안 나오긴 해.
그냥 지금 내려가도 돼.
얘네 이거 수학 주도권도 없어. 그냥 손에 다 보면서 한다. 탑 닦고.
나이스.
왼쪽에 세트. 미드
그래,
라인
잡았어,
타자,
그래,
미드 라인
잡았어.
타자.
미드랑 바텀 하자.
사이드 높으면 나 공아
여기
있다.
좋거든?
높여. 나 공설이 괜찮나?
나이스 이겼다.
호나 여기 뒤에.
릴리야.
나 좋냐? 나
맞을게.
괜찮아. 나 궁도 있어. 카이사 봐줘.
일단 세트 2 빠졌고. 도발 빨리 터져줘.
아 아파.
나 도발 5초. 카이사도 높여. 카이사 맞아.
나이스.
나이스.
나 죽일.
내 거지. 아좀 안일하게.
야, 퀸 잡을래?
뭐 죽일까?
하나, 둘, 셋.
나때
저거-
죽였어야지. 뭐야?
뭐야?
왜 죽었는데?
페인 정글링
맞춰주면서 해야겠다.
맞춰주면서 해야 된다 이것도. 나한테 맞춰줘.
오케이.
내가 해줄게. 자 해보자.
네.
나갈 수 있어? 살짝 와봐. 칼리 높여? 더 할 거야 이거?
여기까지 보자 릴리
나 공 있어. 나 5초.
나 공있어
3초.
알리 계단.
2초. 얘 풀 쓸 거야 이거.
애플 있다. 잡자.
나 앞으로 살짝 나올게.
먹자.
오케이 먹어봐.
먹어라.
일단
먹자.
쳐봐.
천천히. 앞에 버려. 빼자. 안 좋아. 버려. 빼자. 버려. 빼면서.
할 사람 살아. 이거 게임 끝나면 안
나
돼.
버렸어.
한번 잡아볼게. 이거 클린즈 빼는 거야?
알리부터. 긁어.
천천히 해봐.
그라.
앞라인 천천히 빼봐.
빼면서 보자. 빼면서 봐. 야, 구도
앞으로
좋아. 우리 높을.
또 좋아.
오케이.
오케이.
안도 높을고. 한살 빼고 알리 높을. 한번 빼. 자유 높을. 나못
가야
가.
누구 노플이야?
빼야 돼, 태용.
우리 가인이긴 해.
야, 아무것도 없어. 형 미드가. 내가 마무리야. 끝내. 나이스! 미안해.
아니 집중해봐. 이거 아직 몰라.
무조건 끊어. 케인 공연할게. 괜찮아.
민성아.
어?
그냥 되는데?
긴장된다고?
어.
나 심장 떨리는데 어떡해? 내가 이끌어줄게. 긴장하지 말고 해. 내가 캐줄게. 나이스. 와, 나 뭐야?
와, 너 완전
제대로한데? 나
크래쉬, 캐리어.
샷 시킬게. 아지를 걸었어. 아지를 높을.
나이스.
이거 좋아.
와줘. 카이타 와줘. 야, 미드 가자. 얘들 미드 가자.
카이트 공필 뺐어. 앞에만 앞에서 맞아줄게 봐 이거.
나 안으로 들어갈게. 이거.
안에 들어와. 알리 노궁이야. 막혔어. 싸우자. 우리 좋아. 카이사 막할게 이거. 아지를 탈진.
카이타.
좋아.
캐리어.
해줄게.
원래 상체적으로 이거 이긴 건데 아쉽다.
연준아, 그 첫판이야 너. LCK. 너 원래 잘할 수 없어 초반인데. 아쉽게 했어. 나이스.
난 데뷔 좀 피우지 받았는데.
우리 서포 캐리야.
현준이 킬 줘. 우리 현준이 킬 줘. 현준이 킬 줘.
땡큐.
나이스.
나이스.
Hello, Twitch chat. I hope you've been enjoying round 2 of LCK Spring so far. I wonder, is Faker going to be playing? Is Damwon going to lose to Predabrion once again? I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, here's a teaser for the Pog state. In this one, the Valdanalyst returns for more sweet Pog moments, and the Sun is back. G-Sun and Key-Sun are there with more Pog Lab, where we're going to get all sciencey and stuff. Check out the new episode here on the LCK Twitch channel, or over on the LCK Global YouTube channel, or the audio version on Spotify, Apple, and many more. That's all for now. You can go ahead and enjoy the LCK broadcast. From the LOL state to the Pog state, we'll see you soon on the Pog state.
Welcome back everybody for the last day of this week's LCK, and Africa Freaks is taking on Genji, and today's analyst desk will be joined by Subinyun, P3 and Gorilla. It's a rematch just after 10 days between Africa Freaks and Genji, and surprisingly enough, Africa Freaks was able to stomp Genji in this game. And this time around, Africa Freaks took away Azir some of the comfort pick for BDD. It was a very bold try for Africa as a whole because Fly is not a player that kind of tends to play Azir a lot, and not a lot of teams can actually outplay Genji starting from the laning phase. That was not the winning recipe for the opponents for Genji. It was a challenge for Africa Fricks, but it was really impressive to see them to go this hard from the get-go. It was really odd to see Africa opening that Udyr over to Clid, because Udyr is a champion that can play and make a lot of plays around the lanes with their priority, but this time around Africa Fricks went to plan B. They let them play Udyr and then they wanted to win lane and take away the power of Udyr combined together with the strong laners. It's because BDD was not able to play Azir in the mid lane. Well, there was no power or pressure coming out from the mid lane, and also we all know that Jace was doing a fantastic work from the beginning. He got solo kill at like level 3 or 4, and then Africa Fricks didn't stop getting their snowball going. Now let's take a look how Africa Fricks was able to get so ahead from the beginning. It was really sharp to see Keen going in like that because a huge minion wave was going in for a turret. So Rascal used his Q skill in order to get that minion. So Keen knew there was no stun available for Volibear, so he just went in straight for that solo kill under the turret. And then because both top laners didn't have their flash, 2 of the junglers were gathered up, and Genji had this information that Lilia was around the top lane as well, and she was not level 6 yet. But it was really weird to see actually Genji going in so aggressively, even committing their flash for that kill. And Jace pushing Udyr away when he was trying to engage onto Lilia was really critical as well. Udyr is a champion that can get a lot of value by changing his stance in the jungle camps. Because he was not playing in the jungle camp, he could not get a regeneration of his mana as well. So that was not a good fight for Genji to take, but they got a little bit emotional with that play. And they went in for a very high risk play, and they had to take the risk. So Genji wanted to close out the gap, so they were forcing a fight on the mid lane. Genji is really used to playing game ahead, so maybe they kind of lack some experience playing from behind. We have this information that Alistar had to use his flash or maybe ultimate because he wanted to go in for a turret dive earlier to this fight, but they still forced to open fight on the mid lane as well. So Africa Fricks felt really comfortable to take that fight and turn it around. Africa Fricks, well, because they were super fed, maybe Genji had to play around the Kaisao champion that was pretty much intact, even though Genji was falling apart. So they maybe wanted to open fight with Kaisa together on the mid lane, but Africa Fricks didn't really have a struggle dealing with that fight opening on the mid lane. Well, Africa Fricks, they did, take some time to close out this game, but still, because they had some solid and huge lead based on the laning phase, they were able to take down the Nexus smoothly. And Genji fell to Africa, and the player of the game, I wonder who is this? And it's gonna be Keen on Jace, the unstoppable solo laner. I also prefer this kind of a matchup on the top lane instead of seeing 2 tanks, because this kind of pick carries hard, but at the same time this kind of pick can also throw a game hard, and this game was a game that very aggressive pick solo carried a game. Massive DPM in this game, and just one-shot Kaisa with just a number of skills. And this is the game-ending team fight. Genji had their eyes on Jace, and they were able to make some picks onto Jace, but that was not that effective. And a massive engage coming out from Lehans as well. So at the end of the mic check, Lehans was actually like, am I a god? Why am I so good? But, well, I think Keen was still better in order to take away that 8 votes for this POG votes, and Jungle was able to take away or snatch away 1 vote, but still Keen took 8 votes in total. So we also wanted to point out that Keen will be able to kind of boost up his stats based on the performance he showed in this game. So let's move on to game number 2, Genji versus Africa Freaks. Let's see whether they can also take away a win on the blue side or whether Genji can stand still as a second place team in the LCK.
Thank you so much, Jisun, for the analyst desk translation. And yes, let's find out whether Afrika are actually the real deal, or whether perhaps we just had a little bit of an issue with a Jace getting completely out of control. Because that game certainly felt like Keen versus Genji, and unfortunately afterwards I kind of want to nerf Keen rather than Genji.
And I think that Genji, they will now fully respect what Afrika can actually do, which I think is something that after last game maybe they didn't really do. Because I feel like a Blood Pick Volibear was a little bit of a risk, not necessarily something that you generally see. I think the Gragas was open. Gragas is really good, even blind.
Yeah, could have potentially mitigated some of the Keen problem. But let's see how it does change. Renekton, of course, banned away from Rascal. Certainly Rascal feels like a very different player when he has the Crocodile in his hands. But that's going to be the same ban. Let's see whether anything else changes up, as so far, not so much. Kalista and Renekton were banned away immediately by Afrika, and Rel Seraphine were also immediately banned by Genji.
And I wouldn't ban Udyr here or pick it up as Afrika, honestly, after that first game. I think you just leave it open, and then if Genji pick it again, you're like, okay, sure, we can deal with that, considering the lackluster performance of the pick in the last game. And my expectations is that Genji is going to do exactly what Afrika did last game and wait till R5 to actually lock in the top laner, unless Afrika commits to a matchup earlier, because we also saw in the last game that Ruler and Life, I think, will naturally have an advantage over Bangalhands. I think Bangalhands can neutralize that matchup, but I don't see them winning it just through the sheer laning power of Ruler and Life.
I agree.
And I think that if you are in a situation where, as Genji, you can not let Keen and Dread snowball, you'll be fine. And this is something where Genji, yes, Klitz Nidalee is really good, but you are going to get into another situation where if you flip it early and it goes poorly, you're in really big trouble.
The thing is, now that they have red side, they have counterpick, and I think that blue side Udyr isn't anywhere near as powerful. We saw it demonstrated in game 1, right? Like, I was actually having a chat to Cloud Templar just after the first game, and he was like, yeah, look, Udyr is a fantastic champion as long as you have priority in every lane, because then the snowball becomes so simple. We do see the Syndra Nidalee combination come through from Genji, and now can Afrika finagle their way towards all pushing lanes.
So like finesse and wrangle at the same time?
Yeah. I think finagle is actually a word, but I went with finagle instead, which isn't a word, but I think it sounds like a word that you'd understand,
I mean,
right?
You have me fooled, so, you know, good.
I'm just taking advantage of second language situations and things like this.
Very well. I can do the same thing where I can tell you a fact about Dutch culture and you don't know if it's true or not.
Absolutely not.
You would never know.
I mean, I've been there once, but it wasn't for very long. So I guarantee I'm not going to know anything.
That's okay.
You already got me with your what was the stripe raffles? Yeah, that's the one. Strobe raffles.
Strobe raffle. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's when you go to a raffle competition and there's lots of really cool lighting. That's what I assume they are.
Interesting pickup here to go for the Aphelios without any guarantee that you'll get the Thresh. I also assume that Afrika are going to immediately ban that away to kind of augment the problems that Aphelios naturally has, and that Thresh really does a great job at mitigating. And what Afrika do have here, though, is fly on Orianna, and I feel like fly on Orianna is something that I was also expecting with Azir, which wasn't the case at all, so maybe you can prove me wrong here as well. Where it synergizes well with the Udyr, right? One thing that we didn't really talk about last game when we were criticizing the Udyr is that he also really likes having a Karma or a Lulu or an Orianna that can kind of help him,
something
similar
to
Olaf.
augment him, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because it keeps him relevant for a lot longer. And that is something that they do have. But in the past, Fly and Orianna to me has seemed fairly invisible. Right, like he's been there, but he hasn't really had impact.
Yep.
But that was my expectation for ㅣ, and then he went like for I think it was level 6-7. Immediately went in for like the big play that they found on Clid right earlier on. So maybe this will be similar. He will do a similar thing on the Orianna here. Now you just lock in the fresh here as Gen G. I don't see a reason.
Whoa, Aurelia
for that.
ban with Nara available is very interesting. Aurelia suffering her first loss, I believe, in the LCK in our last one, but of course Gen G want to hold on to that counter pick, and so now Afrika get to pick the Nara if they would like to. This is really curious.
I think as Afrika you just lock in the Gragas here, right? You do what Gen G didn't do last game, where you just go Gragas. I don't think he has any hard losing matchups, right?
It does give you way too much magic damage.
Well, yeah, that is, but you don't pick him for the damage, right? You like merely pick him to have like a beefy engager. I think the Gnar here is a bit more of a liability. The Gangplank is still open. Now, Gangplank doesn't fit very well into Gen G's comp, because the problem with Gangplank is that while he does have early game priority, he doesn't work super well together with Nidalee, right? Like, then you have a composition that, outside of Rascal being very strong in the early game, is not that great, because Rascal and, Clid and BDD together will be somewhat reliant on like actually hitting a scatter, and then you can stack magic resist. Instead, it will be Lahens on the Gragas here. That's really interesting.
Or it's support Gnar. Hell yeah.
If anyone would do it, it would probably be Lahens.
Yeah, that's probably true, actually. I shouldn't put it past him. As Life, thinking about grabbing the Camille for Rascal, actually love this. Camille, Nidalee, such a good combination, and can certainly give Gen G a lot of power towards the top side. They will lock that one away. Gives them a 4-1 composition with some decent pick around the mid-game, and they can play towards it. The only thing that's standing out to me is the Aphelios that doesn't have Thresh. Does feel like half the champion when that does come into play, but this is Ruler in Life, right? Like, they just command a lane so effectively, but this is going to have to be like Ruler's best positioning ever, right? Because now he's got a big Gnar chasing after him. He has to watch out for these shockwaves. Dread's just going to be running at the Aphelios, and Aphelios has no way to get out outside of the flash.
And we haven't even talked about Lahens' Gragas, right? Like, Gragas is... It's similar to Jarvan in that if you are an Aphelios in a game and you know that there's a Gragas, there's a Jarvan, something that can just instantly engage on you for a Body Slam or a Cataclysm in the case of Jarvan, where you are locked in a place or you are displaced and you are not able to actually auto-attack, to actually use the amount of sustain that you have available to yourself, you're not in for a great time. And I feel like Ruler in this composition, interestingly enough, is actually not really going to be the main carry, unless you're in a position where like you find big leads, right? Like, it kind of changes the equation. But generally, I'd be looking more toward Rascal or BDD or Clid finding early game leads and then leveraging that, because the Udyr will lose effectiveness. And then if you get one of your other solo laners really far ahead, you can park them in the side lane and you can play kind of okay in a Kai'Bek situation. The problem that I have with the comp from Gen G is that if they fall behind again, I think this comp also does not play well if they can't play forward, right? Like, that is not a position you want to be in, especially with how strong like the big ultimate combos are on the side of Afrika.
Yeah. There's going to have to be some smoke and mirrors, it feels like, out of Gen G as we hop onto the Rift for game number 2. Afrika, can they do it again? On the blue side, Keen, of course, powered up to absolutely 100% capacity right now as his little Dino Gnar.
Okay, buddy. He,
oh, we're taking the Omni Stone. We're doing it.
He's Omni Stoning it. He's
a bit omniscient at this point in the series. Don't even really know what that word means, to be honest. I just wanted to say it because it sounds good.
Isn't it that you're like, you know everything that's...
Yeah.
That's what I'd imagine.
Isn't that omnipotent? No, that means you can do it.
Do everything,
Yeah.
I'd imagine, like, it would have to do with...
If you could tweet at me, the English class, if you could just let me know what omniscient means, and we'll see whether it actually made any sense at all. It probably did not.
That's okay. You know, your English is just... Oh, no, wait, that only works for me, unfortunately for you.
What do you mean? I'm first language Australian.
Oh yeah, that's actually true.
Yeah.
Second language. Yeah, my
second
bad.
language.
I'm sorry, man. I should.
Can you please?
Yeah, no.
We're from such similar backgrounds, and
that's on me, honestly. Yeah. No, I feel bad about that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about
Very
Omnistone so we can forget me.
Yeah, let's
It's such a
do
horrible
that.
transgression.
What's your opinion on the Omnistone on the Camille?
I think it's kind of a win more situation where one of the big potencies of Omnistone comes from basically if you can proc Dark Harvest early, like everything that you do becomes better. Camille is one of those champions that can actually use so many. We've seen a run with like a big variety of runes as well, right? Recently it's been stuff like the Grass, but you can also play Conqueror, which we've still seen recently. I think okay, BDD. I think when we were like, this is way back, but when Camille Jungle was popular, we also saw the press the attack a lot because you can get it quickly with the auto reset, right? So there's a number of ways. Comet Camille was a thing once upon a time.
I remember
where you
that.
just go for the W, the tactical sweep, and then poke.
That was when the sweep was extraordinarily strong.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, it's not a thing anymore for a reason, right? And I think that's good. I don't think Camille should be able to do that.
When she was a poke champion in lane,
yeah,
that's when things have certainly gone wrong. If that's the case,
it should not be allowed.
Yeah,
is what we say to that. So the gist of it is, generally you'll be fine with whatever you get in terms of because you're such a versatile champion that has varying different modes, and then. If you snowball the Omnistone and you are actually able to make great use of it, it does give you access to a really nice tree. And
there's the Dark Harvest. Did he get a stack as well?
Yeah, he did.
Oh, that's nutty. Wow, he rolled into it so perfectly. That's now lethal tempo for the all-in. Am I right? It's not going to happen.
It's similar to a good Zoe player, right?
Right.
You always recognize those.
Well, not anymore. The Redemption a little bit harder to gather at the moment as now Lahen's taking a lot of damage. Life just sticking to him. There's the flash out and first blood goes to Ruler. We mentioned the fact that it doesn't matter which support this guy has on the Aphelios because he's just so damn good. Now they're looking for the second one as he gets the snare as well. The Calibrum comes through, gets his second proc. It's not quite enough. Oh my goodness. This is angry Gen G and they are so scary.
Oh no. I've seen this one before.
Yeah, right.
This is... I was saying in between the breaks, I think that this is going to be a matchup that's kind of contingent on how the top lane or the top side goes, because I don't feel like Gen G can push the bot lane hard enough, and I'm immediately proven wrong, you know. So that's quite nice. As I don't know how they get away with this, right? Like, yes, the Gragas is not as strong as the Leonian in early game situations, but traditionally. Aphelios isn't as like potent as the Kai'Sa early on, but they are the ones who set up the play. A lot of damage is actually funneled into Life, who combined with Aftershock and his W doesn't actually care about that. Then you're in a situation where you're basically exclusively running away and Ruler can free hit, and they also use so many summoners, right? Like, this is really bad for the Afrika Freaks bot lane because Ruler and Life are kind of known for then pushing these leads to an obscene degree.
And it's also really bad for the jungle, right? We talk about Udyr needing Prio in the lanes. Well, where's the Prio for Afrika? It is on the top side a little bit. As now Dread looking for a gank, flashes forward, gets the slap onto BDD, as he will get stunned up. That's a great spear out of Clid, of course, on a stun target. Not exactly a difficult one, however, they are going to be able to answer as Keen dives on in and looks for the Nidalee now. This guy is now ganking from the top side of the map, as he did manage to get that shove all the way through, and maybe you can just brute force yourself some priority because the Gnar is able to take control of his lane.
And this is something that post-6 will be a lot harder for King, because then he actually needs to respect Rascal in case of a gank, because with the Hextech Ultimatum you can't actually get out as easily as you normally do as Camille. But at this point in time, really well played there by Afrika. It is just a camp, right? So in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't mean as much. And I'm pretty sure that Ruler and Life can now just freeze the lane here, clear his bot side, and that means that we're going to see a huge chest lead fly!
Oh, gets the last auto, and BDD solo killing in the mid lane. Yeah, this is angry Gen G is not just on the bottom side. It has now infected the mid lane, and Clid looking to try and take that towards the top side as Rascal needs to try and get his answer back. And you can see was able to utilize some of that space that he was given from Keen's little roam to catch back up in farm. That being said, Keen should still be a dominant force as Life is Hex flashing out of the brush. Now that we have a little bit of a lull state, I do want to say thank you to Jared on Twitter and Acevo for letting us know what omniscient means. It just means all-knowing.
Yeah.
You just know everything.
Said, right?
I think, yeah, we said all-seeing or all-knowing. I guess it's about the same. So we had the right idea. I just wasn't confident because I haven't thought about the word omniscient for a very long time.
I used to think it was pronounced omniscient for a really long time.
Nice.
Yeah, that's what you get for not actually speaking a language, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of words that I'm actually really confused about pronunciation now. Because I've been living around so many Americans here in Korea.
Oh.
I start to forget, like, do I say schedule? Do I say schedule? Like, what is it now? Because everyone around me is saying schedule, but I've grown up saying schedule.
Yeah.
I don't even know anymore.
Slowly losing yourself.
Yeah, Vedius was talking about this just the other day, saying that like he's lost some of his identity with his language, and I feel like the same thing is to be said with me as well. Like I say convenience store, and like I'd probably say gas station instead of servo. Like, oh my goodness. Like, who am I? Who am I?
What's happened to you?
I know.
Fame has changed you.
It is. I don't think it's fame. I think it might be Wolf and Brendan.
It's just that.
And Seth. Oh, Seth. Because he talks so much, you know?
Yeah.
I just pick up things. It's very sad.
It's understandable, really.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's okay. There's an ulti from B to D, and there's one from Fly as well as Dread. Doesn't have his flash available, but Fly showing some signs of life here as Dread's looking to try and throw some of his Phoenix Fire around in his Ernie form. As he puts Tibbers back on and looks for Clid, who's just going to clear out a ward. Rascal tactfully sweeping up Keen, who's going to find his way into this river. Shelly available, Fly looking for a back timing. So we're not going to be starting this one up just yet.
And I think a problem for Afrika is that we went into this pre-game that wasn't really as applicable. As we see here, this is a little bit disjointed, right? Like Fly does hit level 6. Oh, never mind, this was the solo kill. I was like, wait, what?
Different one?
Yeah, no, this was... I don't know why we're going back to this, because this is kind of painful. I wanted to talk about the gank. This is just BDD. Showing why Syndra is still a relevant champion, right? Like, it's boring. We don't like it as casters, but as players, it makes a lot of sense.
Oh, yeah, and the value of Syndra is that she does what it says on the tin almost every time, right? And having that sort of stability in a draft, especially if you're a coach, feels real good. So you can see why teams like Damwon Kia and Gen G both utilize it to great effectiveness, just to make sure that they alleviate as much uncertainty in the draft as possible.
You said tin, not can, so that's a win.
Oh, really? Would you normally say can?
I mean, I think Americans would.
Oh, would they? Okay.
I assume so. I don't hear tin often.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Maybe it does sound a bit Australian in my head. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like we're going on an adventure together without having any of the answers, actually. It's beautiful.
We don't. Unfortunately for Afrika, it kind of feels similar to their journey that they're on right now, because unlike the first game, they have not been able to find any early game footing in this game. And unlike Gen G, who I think still had some moments in the last game where they were actually able to fairly decently look for openings, Afrika, while their comp allows it, is a team to me that traditionally has had a really rough time playing from behind. They get randomly caught. And maybe they want to try and contest here. It's greedy though.
Yeah, Scatter the Weak does go wide, so that's a bit of CC now on cooldown as Rascal's going to move on in. 3 versus 4, and in goes Light. Solar Flare goes completely wide. 3-man Shockwave from Fly, though, is cleared. Has to get out. Rascal goes back in, though, and he's just dead. Oh, no, he's not exactly having the greatest day, as that's a brilliant cast out of Lehens. And Afrika take control once again.
And that's a big objective. These early Heralds can give you so much of a gold lead and so much early tempo. And Gen G, yet again, I called the contest greedy there, but they're not on the same page, right? Like, Rascal goes in for the re-engage there. I think maybe he thought that he was dead no matter what, and he's going to help his team disengage. But this Herald can get turned into more early play gold. The kills that you give over provide a lot of early game power to the Afrika Freaks, which they were sorely lacking. And it is just, this is not the Gen G that we've been used to seeing over the last couple of series.
Yeah, this is definitely a disconnect that we're not used to for this particular squad. Also, Life straight up missing that Solar Flare is not what you want either. As he could have got a lot more value in that position, and then Lehens with the flash just to guarantee the second kill. And this is huge for so many reasons as well. for Afrika.
And I'm pretty sure that the call that was like Grasko, like, okay guys, I'm gonna go in and I'll try to like get you guys out. But then Lahens with the counter engage, right? Like find life as well, which turns that trade into kind of a unfortunate situation. And I gotta give credit to Fly because I said before, like I wasn't particularly a fan of his Orianna. Like he wasn't a liability, but he was just invisible. And
in the lane especially, right? He's not a laning Orianna like a lot of our Orianna players are, because she can be very, very good at controlling minion waves. That's not how Fly plays her. He is a teamfight Orianna.
But even in the teamfights and even like in these skirmishes outside of lane, like when you're still someone in laning phase, right? It's that gray area between where you actually open it up. And where you're like still looking for the 1v1s and the skirmishes. Even there, I felt like he hadn't really had an impact. And the reason why I'm going on about it is because I feel like in both of these two last games, he's been so much more active around the map, right? Like this free shockwave, if you don't find this play doesn't work.
Speaking of plays, oh, there's the flash out of the Gnar. And Keen's just going to throw a house at Rascal, but does miss. They are going to be able to grab a couple of plates here as now. Shelly's going to be put down, and this should be the turret eradicated. Fantastic use of Shelly as well, just to make sure that all of the value is picked up. And that is just going to brute force another advantage for Keen here towards the top side. In a matchup that can go both ways, we've seen Camille do well into the Gnar, but weak side Camille not going to have nearly that level of power as Shelly gets a second charge. She is certainly working overtime today. A lot of value out of that piece of shellfish. As in goes, Rascal doesn't quite find the hook shot, and he's going down extraordinarily low. Dread tries to slap him as he does walk away. Shockwave comes in, easy dissonance for the kill. Meanwhile, on the bottom side of the map, Ruler is continuing to just be an absolute beast, as Bang's going to have to flash to get out of the way of that spear that could have just spelt his death. Clear didn't have flash, though. Maybe wouldn't have been able to get into that extended pounce range, but not entirely sure. Better safe than sorry.
And even with the early game going the way of Gen G, we see Afrika kind of repeat the pattern that we saw last game where Bang and Lahens are just left to their own devices. And Ruler and Life are clearly the better duo, right? Like when it comes to just straight up 2v2 power, I think you can even make an argument for them being the best 2v2 duo in the LCK.
I think so, yep.
But they're definitely the best 2v2 duo in this specific matchup. Like 35 CS lead, 2 kills. And yes, the jungler was there, but that was not why the kill was found. But they're sacrificing their top side. And these are again the kind of plays where normally as Gen G, you have a lead where this actually works out. You find the kill, right? And then you possibly get away with it. But instead now, you're like trying to all in a situation where you're not really allowed to. And yeah, Lance is just getting sacrificed.
Oh my god. The flash into perfect, like, he doesn't... There's no, like, hesitation at all. That flash looked aggressive.
Yeah.
Rather than a defensive flash, which it absolutely was. Like,
yeah.
Oh my god, Ruler is just something else.
You know, like, when you can actually use flash like this aggressively and always make it work, it just looks so broken, right? Like, this is
and
like...
when you use it, like, but like, this is the thing, like, my brain, when I'm playing,
yeah,
I'm like, either I'm going in or I'm going out. You know, I'm not a very good player, to be perfectly honest. I'm good at yelling about the game, but not so much playing it, because I've got the old man hands. But Ruler uses it defensively and offensively at the same time, and his brain allows that to happen, and that's what gets me. But maybe you guys at home are just better humans when it comes to that. I marvel at the skill.
I think that's a good thing, you know. Like, you gotta realize that even a team like Afrika that at the beginning of the split looked really disjointed, right? Like, had a really rough time. They weren't looking cohesive. They were making individual mistakes. They were getting caught out time and time again. And you can look at a team like that and like see that match and be like, oh, these Afrika guys, like, well, what is this roster doing? What are these players? They're all washed up. And it's so easy to forget how high level this really is as Rascal finds Keen.
Yeah, in a rough position, as that is going to be, very almost getting himself out, but that is going to be the kill confirmed. BDD didn't need to teleport, as he didn't even manage to get an assist, but that's okay. Better guarantee it, you know?
Listen here, buddy Keen, I am giving you credit even when you make mistakes. That's not an excuse to immediately stop making mistakes. Oh, Ruler!
Yeah, Dread is going to find him here as the barrel comes down. Ruler's trying to get the damage back, but Dread just tanky enough And will be able to lock down the Ophelios. Didn't even need his chem tank to be activated there, as of course point blank range pretty good. So Secret Agent Udyr getting the work done, as now Bang picks up turret aggro for some reason, but should be able to get a bit of work done to this outer turret on the bottom side of the map. And it feels like Gen G are just getting more around the map, despite the fact that Gen G still have a slight gold advantage.
And it's interesting because Gen G to me are still playing like they are very much ahead.
Whoa, that's a big flash forward as the stun comes down. Dread's going to easily be able to pick that one up as Keen gets into position just a little bit too late. And Life with the defensive Solar Flare stops the Gnar from coming over. Rascal continues pushing there on the top side of the map.
I wonder what it means for the Dragon. Gen G is now switched into like the super high tempo, doing everything all at once kind of playstyle that we know them for, right? Where they make a play on top side, they invade your jungle, they dive your mid laner, and they all do it at the same time, which generally is something that can be really risky, but because they're often in a position where they have a big lead, they are able to get away with it. They will be sacrificing a Dragon here, though. I'm pretty sure that this should be just a Freaks Dragon. Now, this is just a single one. There is still the chance for a Cloud Soul, you know, but thus far,
that's true.
The odds have been good.
I mean, the odds are pretty good for a Cloud Soul to finally turn up, right?
Well, yeah.
It's been a few games without one.
It has been.
As Life looking to come through and clear out this vision. Afrika didn't pull the trigger on the Dragon, which they could have, but we knew that. They didn't. Vision not quite there just yet, as Life getting it slowed down by the barrel. Bit of a slap there from Dread as Keen with his Gnar in a pretty good position right now for starting off this Dragon. And Clid finally gets back down. The Orb in the spot just to try and block them off here, and this will be a guaranteed Drake take for Afrika. Can they get a turnaround kill is the answer here, as Life going to have to flash out. Keen looking for a position on the Gnar. Isn't able to get it. There's the Cloud Soul like we were talking about. We deserved this. And Afrika are going to back away.
When Afrika have the priority on an objective like this, you basically can't ever contest as Gen G here on red side, because if you have to funnel like through a jungle entrance, you're just immediately dead. There's Orianna, there's Gragas, there's Gnar, all of these champions that just immediately blow you up if this happens, as Secret Agent Udyr.
Oh, he blast coned in.
Is really cute.
Yeah, that's what feels bad. As I would be very frightened if I was Ruler. Yeah, not quite able to get enough damage in. And here is the gank on the fly in the mid lane. Pretty comfy stuff, to be honest, is B2D. Just cookie
like
cutter.
Flash scatters, like, no, I'll hit this. I hit these. This is fine.
yeah.
Right, we don't really care about that, but while I like the idea of that play, in terms of tempo, I don't even think it's necessarily worth it as
Life is going to get booped back. The Eclipse doing a lot of work mitigating, as there's the Shockwave to bring him back in. Just the one pick, but what can Afrika get for it is the answer, and I guess there isn't really much, unless they want to try and go for Shirley, but it looks like Shirley might just disappear. Shirley got so much work done that Sister gets a day off, I guess.
As the Airbenders have returned yet again to grace us on Summoner's Rift.
Yeah.
It's okay. You can't avoid them forever. It's not happening, and I want to pay some attention to like what is the state of the game right now, right? Because it feels like Gen G, this started off as a classic Gen G game, right? They find a couple of good plays, but Afrika was able to actually kind of stem the bleeding. They find their own plays around the map, they pick up a couple of kills, they pick up some early objective, they pick up that crucial fight, as this is just Life getting greedy for a ward and not really having any backup against a team with a lot of displacements. It's a bouncy house.
Yeah. And Bang just fed a kill, which he absolutely needs. He's 2,000 gold behind at the moment after the clinic that Ruler put on towards the bottom side. This 1 versus 3 is going to be just won by Dread, I guess. He just walks up, slaps the blue buff, and takes it down. Does deny it from Fly, so it's not all bad news for Gen G. But that is a silver lining that isn't all that...
it's more like Tin.
Yeah, yeah, maybe. Although Tin confuses me, because that's a can.
Really?
No, not really. I understand. Don't worry. We're okay. Fly clearing out the top side. He does like side laning these days quite a lot. His Azir was certainly splitting, but just will be the top side. Sorry, the mid lane move to the top lane. Biddy going to go back home. We'll see what he can actually purchase for himself. His Leandries already complete as Keen looks for Rascal and finds him here towards the bottom side. The chain CC is really nice as he cops about 3 houses to the back of the head. Another one will spell the end, and he doesn't even need it. Just slaps him in the face, and another solo kill for Keen, this time in game 2.
But this is with the counter pick for Rascal. Rascal was the one that this time got the R5 counter pick. He got the Camille. This is the matchup that he opted into. And this doesn't feel like a game number 1 where it was Keen just kind of like stomping on him from beginning to end. But it's also not a game like game number 1 where Dread was exclusively topside, right? And where he was like continuously forcing these skirmishes and trying to build this lead. It's just been Keen playing so incredibly well. And
this feels like a 2019 Keen versus Rascal. That's what it feels like.
That's really scary, Atlas.
It's crazy. It's crazy how much like Keen has just gone back in time and decided, no, remember Rascal, remember what we used to do here in the LCK?
Aha!
Well, I do, and I still get chills sometimes because Keen has been a monster for a very long time. And it was a different Rascal on a different team. But still, this is such good news for Afrika fans.
And what it means is that going into this next Drake fight, all of a sudden you have a Keen that has hit a crucial 2-item power spike. He's now found that Stark's Gauge, which gives him so much more ability to actually go in deep as that's going to take a load.
Yeah, Lehens does only get slowed as there's the Moonlight Vigil. Ruler getting a fair bit of damage down. You can see big AoE out from the Genji 80 carry. Does have 2 of his crucial items now completed as the poke is actually real scary, especially when Ruler has the Calibrum available. And now Genji going for a bit of a desperation Baron.
Oh, don't like this. Teleport's available. Keen can come from the back.
Yep, Keen has a really nice Nahbar at the moment. No, actually, he is Mega Gnar still. So, that is going to wear down, and Genji is going to back away from the Baron. So that was a brief window where Afrika could have actually fought that one with Keen's Flash and Gnar available.
The thing here is, as Genji, that's a free Drake. You can just walk towards the Dragon Pit, right? You can clear the vision, make use of the tempo that you found out with that. Honestly, pretty good skirmish, right? Like, everyone on the side of Afrika needs to back. There's no way they're ever going to contest that. But you go for a Hail Mary Baron, which you can peel away, which they did. But I feel like it's not a risk that's ever really going to work out, right? 2 teleports are up, which you have forced as
Keen. That Hyper is doing so much work. He's got the Sterix completed now as well on top of his Stridebreaker. Like this little Gnar is such a menace right now.
Keen gets the you know, we talked about Gnar a lot, especially in the beginning of the split when his prior was a lot higher.
Yep.
He's actually. He deserves the Gnar card that like Khan and King have, right? We're like, okay, you can pick Gnar.
Yeah, this is
We're
allowed.
okay with it.
Yep.
Like this is what you need to do, and now you've earned it. And now you can just pick it whenever, and we will give you the benefit of the doubt.
He actually makes like Mega Gnar look as scary as it actually is in the player model.
Unlike
yeah, like how we scan over to like definitely not Udyr.
Oh, thank you for that. I really appreciate that.
He like pops up. He's like chicken mode. Oh, fantastic. Speaking of chickens, that's exactly where we are on the map as Genji. Just trying to claim some control of this mid lane, K-Ram style. Very standard. And, Drake, not exactly the most important as, of course, you know, I'm back. I'm bringing the clouds with me, don't you worry. There's a song that I could have been singing there that just sort of got me a little bit sidetracked, but I'm not going to.
I would love to revisit this.
I always take the weather with me, let's just say that. As Rascal once again finds a Gnar, but he blast cones to get out, and hook shots for good measure. As I would too. Keen is quite frightening.
And I think as a freak, I think it's the Mountain Drake is pretty good. Yeah, this is
yes.
You know where you learned this from, right? This is Pyoshi Udyr right there.
Yeah. No, this is like walking ward mode.
Yeah.
This is what an Udyr from ahead can do. You are basically just the most durable ward that you can put down.
Yeah. And it moves.
It does.
It moves as well.
And it looks funny.
And it has a really nice, you know, it changes skins. It
yeah,
runs
you get
around.
4 different ward skins.
It
on the
you.
fly. It's actually so good. Buy Udyr today. Only costs a few blue crystals.
He's pulling up Ben though. It's like a 64% Ben rate, I think.
That's true. I mean, you're not going to be able to play him unless you play blind pick. But, you know, still.
I think the thing with Genji's comp is that, like, even though this gold feels very even, oh, they go for the engage.
Yeah, Rascal going back in again. There's the shockwave, and immediately he's going to get taken down extraordinarily low. Stopwatch going to now be utilized. But Genji, I think, lost a little bit more in that exchange. That being said, they still have the Unleashed Power, Moonlight Vigil, and in goes Dread once again. Keen finds a wall up onto Ruler as he flashes and trades with the Aphelios. Now Afrika going to back away, but that is so valuable. Ruler now has no QSS, no flash.
And I'm glad you pointed it out. Ruler, without flash, this is not an Aphelios that has a fresh available, right? Like, that is his only defensive summoner outside of heal, which only gives you a little bit of movement speed. And Keen still has the Stride Breaker, right? Like, he's not as reliant on flash as Ruler is, meaning that Genji is going to be in a situation where they need to play so incredibly respectful. And the problem with Genji's comp at this point in time is, you see, their main form of initiation is Life and Rascal go in. And Life is fairly tanky, but Rascal really is not. Also has gone for like a very strong side laning build.
Speaking of which...
It's okay. Yeah, hookshot is a great basic ability.
I wanted the Killer Instinct, but then BDD and Ruler were in the mid lane, and that would have been instant death there for Bang. And Shockwave is going to pull back Cleared, who just can't get into the enemy jungle at all. He has to use his Zhonya's, and that is going to mean that they grab the kill onto Lehans. In the end, it actually worked out very well for Clid. However, we did see how dangerous it is to venture beyond the river.
And I was about to say, I think Genji's compass problem is that, like, in a straight-up 5v5 where they're not in a good position, they can't land a couple of spears or some Syndra poke as Ruler!
In goes the bear slap, and Ruler is absolutely dead. This is the setup. The slap into Killer Instinct.
Flash?
Yeah. He's a sitting duck, or a sitting Aphelios, I guess. The duck is actually Dread.
This is a key moment. They're losing their inhibitor, Atlas.
They are indeed. However, there's definitely not Udyr into the game, okay? How can you not be laughing? As obviously, this is what they're going to get. The most fed member on Genji was, of course, Ruler, and Rascal was splitting on the bottom side. So, the middle of the map completely eradicated here by the Afrika Freaks. But Genji not out of it just yet. They might be able to set up a freeze or something like that, if I can use what is a very interesting word utilized here in the LCK, where we don't really believe in it.
No, we don't.
Despite the weather.
We play tennis or ping pong or whatever your back and forth sport of preferences is.
Volleyball.
Oh yeah, like that one as well. Yeah, it's fairly self-explanatory. Nice bait there by Clid. Still has to invest his flash though, so I'm not entirely sure as to if this particular spot we've seen so many times people die there, right?
And
like,
Ruler especially, actually. That is one of Ruler's favorite places to die.
It's the Ruler graveyard.
It is.
That's the Ruler graveyard zone. That's what we dub it from here on onward.
We need a heat map of places where Ruler has died.
I think that that specific
game.
spot between like tier 1,
seriously,
tier 2, that is a big one. And again, like, you don't have flash, you don't have a lancing, you don't have any defensive capabilities, and it ties into a problem that I have with the Genji comp at this point in time. In the early game, I was willing to give them the benefit of the doubt because they were actually snowballing, they were playing from an advantageous position. But what has happened now is that they're on relatively even footing with a team comp that literally plays itself, right? You only need to hit one of these big ultimates. Either Lehans splits the fight with a nice barrel, and then Bang can reposition with Killer Instinct, blow someone up. Fly hits a shockwave. Keen hits a
Gnar into a wall.
Gnar in the wall. And the problem with these ultimates is that it creates so many danger zones as Genji you can't really step up towards, which means that you need to either 100 to 0 someone that's out of position, which it's a freak out, that can happen, but if you don't find that, you're kind of in a position where if you don't always are first on the play, I don't actually think you can engage into a freak out, and then you're in a position where you just can't really take objectives. And that's generally not good in the game of League of Legends, because you want objectives because they get you to the Nexus.
Yeah, they do. And then you take that, and then you get the 50 gold, and then that's really, really good. That 50 gold is worth more than all of the other 50 golds that you possibly get in the game. Also, now Genji are going to be playing a 4-1 composition that can be very difficult to play if you're extraordinarily even like this, right? Because you're the one that has the onus on you to take control of all of the side lanes, make sure that all the ducks are in a row. As, yep, that is a very dead Keen. That's the pick that you were talking about. And I was focusing on these chickens being taken down, and just pop goes the Gnar. And this is a big opportunity now for Genji.
This is the one thing
no! Lehans also going to be taken down. Fly, he was thinking about using that shockwave, but unfortunately, No one was there to follow up, and it wouldn't have done anything at all. And now Gen G are just going to be able to pick up a Baron for themselves. And as I was talking about the fact that this comp is more difficult to run, they find exactly that pick that you were talking about. And it's about all she wrote on this Baron. Gen G even able to move over and challenge for this blue buff as well, as Fly not able to grab anything. Shockwave just out of frustration more than anything else. As Bang, he's taken a blue buff on the bottom side.
Just wandering around the enemy jungle, and this is the problem, is that like you don't have a bar here as Keen. Like you're mini Gnar. You don't need to engage here.
And also the rest of his team was not thinking about doing that either. He used all of his buttons and maybe just a little bit overexcited there was good old Keen.
I think this has been one of the most consistent weaknesses of Afrika, even when they do look good, is that they aren't able to play around their certain, like their loose conditions, right? We always talk about win conditions, but I think in situations like this, it's also really important to know, how do we always lose the game, as opposed to how do we always win the game? And in this scenario, in the last game, it was Keen getting caught. That happened once, and then it never happened again, right? Like in the side lane. After that, he learned, immediately adapted. They need to do that here as well.
Yeah, Ruler comes through with a lot of damage, but not a lot of range. Spins around for a little bit, but Dread is going to be able to get out of there. Gives us the old Teemo thumbs up, like it, like it. Spear is not going to pop the Veil onto Fly. But yeah, no, I like that you talk about loose conditions. I think the other way to talk about it is you don't have to only identify your own win condition, identify your opponent's in order to play this one out as live. He's split off from BDD and cleared, as now Dread wanting to chase after them. Not wanting to use his flash, though, as you can see, as that's an empowered recall. It's going to get cleared out of there. BDD now sort of on his lonesome as a cute little flash out from Keen. Oh my god, BDD does a lot of damage. However, Keen going to survive for now. Is looking to bait a little bit more, as there's the Zhonya's, and Bang is going to be able to pick up the kill in the end. So, Gen G utilizes that space given in order to take down this inner turret in the mid lane. Rascal does the same thing on the top side of the map, and actually I think Gen G got more out of this.
I'd be inclined to agree, yes. 3 turrets is definitely worth more than a single kill. Gold lead now, plus 2.5 gold here on this Baron power play coming out for Gen G. The thing for Afrika is that even with them making these mistakes, it didn't actually break the game to a crucial point. They didn't lose any in it, right? So they don't really lose out on map control. And as I said again, I think the Gen G comp is going to remain in the same kind of shape that it's been before. As I like the attempts to try and force something here, but without Keen having a rage bar, you can't actually go in deep. Clid has the presence of mind to just say, haha, goodbye.
Yep.
See ya, BDD. And BDD, most importantly, he stalls here for a really long time, which is really all he needs to do. Just buy time, you know you're dead here, 100%. From that point of view, I wouldn't have minded if he kept the flash, but it did get them a lot of turrets.
That's 950 gold over to Bang. So maybe if Bang can pop off in this next team fight, it could be a good thing, as Gen G looking to go for it. Rascal with a great flanking angle right now as Afrika do lock down that Cloud Drake. Live flashing on in on top of Keen. They understand where the power is for Afrika, but Keen gets the Mega Gnar at exactly the right time. Life going down low as Rascal into the backline. The Gnar doesn't quite do enough as he manages to pick up the kill, but Bang's already dead in this one. Clid going to be limping out of there as Lahen's trying to tidy up and Fly. Oh my god, the damage from Rascal now as Gen G look to be fully charged up, and they do close in on Afrika and take them down.
That might very well be the end of the game. Yeah, Dread trying to clear the wave as much as he can, but a new wave is coming in. Teleport from Rascal just to gain priority here. And we've reached that point of late game inevitability that specifically the Camille has, but it's really just how well Gen G play out that fight. Rascal with the flank there finds Bang immediately, and something that we haven't talked about there is that Afrika doesn't actually have that much damage in that comp at this point in time, right? Like, it's Orianna and Kai'Sa mostly, and if Kai'Sa gets blown up without being able to do anything with the flash still up...
Oh, we're slapping everyone! As the Nexus is going to be taken down. He goes golden for a little bit here as Bang dives on forward. Rule is going to be executed, but so is the Nexus, and that is the main thing. Gen G walk away with a victory in game number 2 and push the series to a 3rd.
And it's a justifiable win here for Gen G. I think on the plus side for Afrika here, you can look back to this game and like clearly identify those picks in mid lane. Keen getting over aggressive, getting over enthusiastic, it leads to a Baron, and the game kind of goes out of your hands from there. And Gen G, you can see it as well on these camps. I don't think they're super happy with how the game went, right? Like,
well, they're not happy with how the series is going. That's absolutely true.
As a
You
whole,
need to get a vote in, man.
not.
Like
I know, but it's hard.
Yeah.
I'm gonna. I am confident about this call. I don't know how you feel about it.
I mean, I'm just not going to say anything. We're gonna let the 8v9 8 out of 9 votes with you not being part of it tell the story. Let's do that.
I'm okay with that.
We'll keep everyone in suspense. I actually don't know. I couldn't tell you who I would
hard
vote for
in this
yeah,
one.
It's
There's a lot
toughie.
of mistakes from a lot of players.
True. I think the bottom lane is where I'm sort of focusing. I think Ruler played an Aphelios without a Thresh very, very effectively. I think that he was certainly a highlight, but he did get caught out in his Ruler positions, right?
Yeah.
Clid also did a bit of getting caught out. They didn't have a great early game. I felt like that was all about Afrika, who were able to rotate their Na very early and gain a lot of pressure for their Udyr to play, but in the end it just wasn't quite enough.
And the reason why I'm like kind of hesitant to really give a lot of credit to Gen G is because I feel like they're rattled. Like, I feel like even in this game, it started off as the classic Gen G game. The first 2 kills went over to them.
Yep.
They found the early game leads. But then their mid-game just didn't look like the mid-game that we've seen previously. And I'm of the opinion that it's just because Afrika has improved so much over the course of the split. You could also have followed the line of argumentation that it's just Gen G kind of fumbling and not really finding their groove today. It's also possible. I don't know how you feel about that specifically.
Yeah, well,
it's hard, right?
I don't really know. I like to err on the side of a team playing better rather than just talking about a team failing. And I think that with this Afrika that's been newly rejuvenated around Dread being so much better, Fly also performing a lot better than he has in the past, bringing back some of his tank mid laners, as we are going to have a look at the post-match breakdown. Let's see whether that helps us figure out who is deserving of the POG. And look, I know who you voted for, and I'd be pretty confident if I was you having a look at some of these numbers. But once again, it feels like Keen against the world, and Afrika are going to be moving back to the red side, and red side does seem powerful, especially in this matchup.
And especially with how Keen has been playing today.
Absolutely.
Although, to give credit to Rascal, I am impressed with the fact that he basically got slapped the entire game, and then he finds what might not be a game-winning flank in of itself, but definitely he found a solo kill there on Bang in that fight. Like, he came in from the back of the pit, he was not spotted, he hookshot it in, literally 100-0 to Kai'Sa, and that was one of the main reasons why that final team fight looked so one-sided. Yes, Afrika were in a little bit of an awkward position because you're like in the pit and you walk out of the pit, but you can't actually walk out of the pit because there's a lot of threat there. But that is something that I think, especially for top laners, is a very valuable skill to have, because you're going to have these games where you're just going to be, I'd like to call it Zeus, where, you know, you're like left alone and then you get dove and then you get dove again. Or Dyrus is like, I think, the OG.
Yeah, it's the Dyrus treatment. That's certainly what we call it. However, not going to be, we'll see who's going to get that sort of treatment as we move to a game number 3. But ladies and gentlemen, we are going to go to a short break. When we get back, can Gen G manage to get the reverse sweep? Or it is going to be Afrika fighting back on the red side? We'll have to find out. We'll see you there.
싸움이야 싸움해. 이거 팀들이 너무 좋다. 나 조이
천천히 해볼게 천천히
한번 이제 걸어도 됐나?
나르부터 천천히 앞에부터
나 켜야겠다.
네, 못 들어간다, 못 들어간다.
나를 빠지면서 봐야 돼. 천천히 봐야 돼.
크라 높을
빨리 잡았어. 나를 딸피. 나르공.
나르부터
카메라 혼자 해.
나르 잡았어
나 들어갔어요.
미드라인 들어가
옆쪽 우디래요?
미드 타자 방이야 살짝 해
우디를 미드 클리한다.
라인 지워진다 이거 담라인 있어 야 담라인
방어받은 건 우디를 일단 높으랴. 우디
끝날라나 끝나겠지.
때려볼래? 끝낼만해.
끝날 것 같아 태민아 너 이거 쫓아 아니다 우리 같이 가자 아니 나 히라하고 하는 게 더 나을 것 같아 15초
애매한가?
끝낼만해
13초.
얼마 할것 같아
얘네 우디래야. 우디를 높으리다.
우디를 점수 한번 할래? 그러면? 우디 때리지 말고 타워 쳐야 돼 이거
만지는 거 그냥 미셔야 돼. 이제 죽여도 된다.
나 잡을래. 기다려.
기다려 나 잡을래
오므에서 왔대.
He's going to keep this away alive, but Cloud9 now funnel in. Sven going to be on a killing spree as he takes down Smoothie, and it looks like absolute carnage here as Cloud9 are going to run over the rest of CLG, but Finn actually has found a way back through. He's going to get the knock up on the Perks, and Turtle also fighting back at CLG in a 2v2. It's a triple kill for Turtle, it's a quadra kill for Turtle, and CLG have turned it back around, and as Turtle grabs the pentakill.
They want to end this game, but Toby, he wants to say no. He puts on that back massager onto the Scion, and it's barely even that because it is Scion. That is a big sleep, though. They're going to find the Kalista in the front line, and she's just going to go down into that Guardian Angel, fighting front to back here. That's a massive shield. Look at Death. He gets into the back line, and he's going to shut everybody down, and I think that's just going to end this game here. Death is able to just sweep everybody into the dumpster.
Então o Titã tem que chegar para poder castigar, não deixar todo o time da MTZ bater no Jojo. Olha o Flash, consegue atordoar, força o Flash do outro lado, o Jojo vai apanhando muito, embaixo da torre, tá lá! Tira a mão do Micão! Fica o confronto agora, o Micão contra o Titã, o Micão quer levar mais uma, e na experiência contra a novidade, o Titã vai levar melhor!
Uno por C les da pie para ir por el varón, pero están un poco tocados y podría ser un 50-50, aunque hoy no esté muy finutiano.
Atención con esto porque Odi va a intentar robarlo, no lo asegura Mighty Bear, pero atención con esto porque Zeus asegura un doble asesinato. Odi muy tocado, sale bien con el destello, siguen cayendo los jugadores, termina siendo un exterminio para el equipo de Rainbow Seven.
And with one more dragon to go, that's a 25-minute mountain soul. Neon takes a gigantic... Oh, there it is again! Oh!
That is beautiful!
The snipe from downtown!
taking us to game number 3 with that win in game 2. In the draft, Africa this time around was the team first picking Udyr, and then they completed the carry comp with Kaisa Oriana. It was really interesting to see the decision making coming out from Genji. They actually just went straight, or rather stick to their original plan. They didn't really get affected by the picks from Africa Fricks. Kaisa Oriana pick is definitely a right pick for Africa because Oriana is a champion that can boost up the speed of Udyr, and Kaisa can make a lot of follow-up play together with Udyr. So this 3 comp is very ordinary and a typical comp that we can see together with Udyr in the first rotation of the pick. But Genji, they just looked so calm. They didn't really get affected by the picks coming out from Africa, so they also answered back with follow-up jungle, mid, and AD carry picks. Looking at the first 3 picks, Africa Fricks did have edge over kind of Genji, but at the same time, Gragas into Leona didn't really seem like a good pick. And Alistar was banned out, which means Leona had no counter pick on the laning phase, or rather in the entire game. And because Genji was able to play around their bottom side, well, Africa Fricks had to retreat faster than it was expected, and Aphelios and Leona together was able to get ahead faster than they normally do. Keen was able to have a great performance throughout this game, but still, Rascal also had this game-ending clutch play at the later phase of the Dragon fight. But let's take a look at the first Herald fight right here. Key made some fantastic move to turn the fight around. So Leona is always standing in this very vague limit. So Leona wanted to go in for an engage, but still Keen perfectly delivered her to the backline and made her get disconnected. So Nar was able to dodge the skill and still take away this Leona to the back line, and Leona's ult also went wide. Leona usually go with EQ combo, and that really works well if you go in for a very short range. But because of the skill got casted so late, well, that combo didn't really work well. Maybe ERQ combo could have been better in order to secure a CC onto the enemies. So Leona just had to use her skills in order to survive that, but she was not able to walk away alive. However, it was Genji that was able to close out the game in the end. So let's take a look at this game-ending teamfight that was perfectly maneuvered by Rascal. I think Africa as a team, they had no heads up for Camille. Camille was in the vision prior to this moment, but still, because the fight got too extended, they lost track of this top laner in the back line, and that flank play came in clutch, and it costed Africa Fricks this game. Rascal even committed his flash in order to lock down the kill onto Kaisa. It's really hard to state that Bang is not having a day here. It's rather Africa Fricks lost their kind of track of the opponent top laner as a team. They did not get enough vision prior to the Dragon fights and stuff like that. Genji is 1 game away extending their winning streak, and the POG will go over to BDD on Syndra. He was dominating this game from the laning phase till the end, and that Scatter the Weak was actually super critical for Genji to turn the game around. It all started with BDD's CC engage. Solo kill on the mid lane, and also he was able to make a lot of picks with that solo CC engage. Even though Udyr was in a very close proximity, he was brave enough to just flash forward because he had this confidence that he's just gonna land that engage. And so many picks that started off with the Scatter the Wick from BDD by himself. We had a lot of AP versus AP matchup throughout the LCK. And we kind of realized that AD champions can also step ahead. Moving on to the later phase of the game, but still, if you can play Syndra this well, Mage Champion is also still very OP. And BDD gets the unanimous POG with that Syndra performance. Africa Freaks was able to break their losing streak up against Genji, a 13-0, but this time around, it has to be connected to a match victory, so let's head over to game number 3.
Thank you so much, Jisun, as per usual, for the analyst desk translation. And here we are, gearing up for game number 3. Is it going to be red side that remains victorious, or are Genji going to be able to buck the trend? I think one of the best ways that they could tackle this is by banning Udyr on blue side. I like it. Take him out of the picture. He's lost every game so far. He's been first picked in both games. Just get rid of it. You know, first pick in Italy. You know, it's fine.
Just no Udyr. We've said so much about the Udyr, and like clearly teams still rate it very highly, but there's also got to be a point where, like Dena, it's fine if you pick him in situations where you think he's good. Like that's where Nara's at now, right? But maybe drop him in priority. Maybe don't always blind pick him. Maybe don't pick him if you don't know your laning matchups. Because this is something that we used to see with Dena, to the point where we called him the orange buff, and his win rate in the LCK was absolutely atrocious. And we've seen that, like, Nara in the right places, yes, Keen didn't win that game, but it wasn't the problem of the pick, right? The pick did its job, it worked out very well, certain players can still play it, and I think the Udyr is in a similar position where, even though on paper I get why teams keep prioritizing it, it is so reliant on the amount of setup and the amount of early game prowess that you have that it might otherwise not be worth it. Although, to be completely fair to Afrika, I think in that last game, it was not a draft or a compositional error. It was exclusively just mid to late game mistakes that got Afrika into a situation where they were losing a game that, to be completely honest, like, it wasn't won. But I feel like they were in a good position to win it just with the power of their comp. And then, mistake after mistake, into a game-ending team fight, sealed the deal on that one pretty quickly. And are they going to ban Udyr here? That's the question.
Well, Afrika, they could do it if they wanted to, but I actually think that leaving it up makes a lot of sense. You know, get yourself 2 power picks in the next round, and then Keen, he can grab... Oh, they are going to ban it, so... Finally, Udyr is banned. It's not the way that I wanted it to be banned, however. Let's see how Genji are going to pivot from this one. As the Lilia taken away from Dread, I love that because Lilia has looked very, very powerful. Kai'Sa's still up. The Kalista, of course, just being pretty much a ruler and life-specific ban. Does open the doors for things like the Jarvan that we've seen in combination in many regions with the Kalista be extraordinarily powerful. And that's that first pick in Italy that I was talking about. And we'll see how Afrika are going to respond.
Maybe this is where you just pick away the Syndra as Fly here, even though I don't think... Fly, although he's had a really good series thus far, I don't even think you pick it just because Fly is going to be super happy and like he's going to have a great matchup. It's just specifically because BDD looked absolutely broken on the pick.
Yep.
But then you leave the Azir open, right? And BDD also looks broken on Azir. But the upside of Azir is that the setup with Nidalee is not nearly as good. And you have a lot more time to actually make plays and do stuff without having BDD shut you down again and again and again, which is of course what he did last game. So I quite like this Graves and Syndra because it is a super strong 2v2. If you can hit the scatter, you can basically always blow someone up in a matter of seconds. And Graves is actually able to keep up with the farming that Nidalee provides. Fun BDD goes Yone. Generally they go Azir. Oh, please do it.
I much prefer the Yone. The Yone is such a fun idea, but
they're playing with our hearts.
Yeah, exactly. BDD is going to go back to his Pigeon. It is just going to be that just control mage matchup in the mid lane, but this is a pick that we can certainly trust BDD on. Fly has also played a bit of Syndra so far, but he's not necessarily the laning player, right? So we're not expecting him to, you know, bully out BDD very early on as Ruler once again going for that solo Aphelios, and it will be taken away.
And I think with the Azir, it makes a little bit more sense. Generally, I like drafting like super hard engage. I think that stuff like the Jarvan, especially if there's no fresh, right? Stuff like I talked about the Jarvan before, the Gragas in the top lane. these kind of picks, they can like just get on top of him and blow him up immediately. But you want to get an AD carrier first, because otherwise what happens is Kai'Sa definitely gets banned, and then you can possibly see something like a Tristana or a Xayah ban, and then you're left with like kind of a subpar AD carry, which I don't think Bang and Lahans need a subpar matchup, because I think that Ruler and Life in an even matchup win, and when they get an actual advantageous matchup, I think it's going to be an absolute bloodbath.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm happy with the Kai'Sa prio here. Again, I would not mind seeing a fresh ban, but considering that was open last time and Gen G didn't go for it, instead favoring Life on something a lot more aggressive, don't quite mind it. I could still... I don't think it makes a lot of sense in terms of like 2v2, but I could see Life just pick up the set here, because it's actually dropped from the ban rotation and something that he's so good at.
That's true. This is something that was banned in game number 1, but actually completely foregone throughout the rest of the series. So I'm glad you bring it up. Gen G with another top lane ban that they can throw out towards Keen, just to make sure that Rascal is as comfy as he possibly can be. There's the set ban, like you were talking about. I'm glad you brought it up, because that is what's going to be dealt with right now. Does mean that Life can just go towards that Thresh like you were talking about, but still, not necessarily one of his mega power picks. Life has like a few champions that he's just super godlike on, and Set is absolutely one of those.
It's not like you're playing against, like, I think Kalen, for example, where if he gets his Thresh, you're just like, oh no.
Yeah, or even Becca, for example.
Yeah.
Becca's super good.
Also works.
On that one.
Definitely agree. This is shaping up to be a blind pick Gnar here from Gen G. I see a Gangplank Bang, I'm like, yep, that is looking like a Gnar angle. Love the Nautilus here. I think Nautilus, in terms of raw strength, is not nearly where he used to be, but getting point and click CC into Nidalee, Aphelios, Azir makes me a very happy man. It has traditionally been a super strong combination with the Kai'Sa because of the ease of execution, right? Like you hit,
give me the
hit the hook,
Give it to me. I love it.
Yes, definitely happening.
Bit of a troll there, but I would have liked it. Alawi, one of my personal favorite champions. For some reason, I really like champions that spawn random stuff on the ground.
So Zyra?
Yeah, Zyra and Alawi are like two of my favorite champions in the game. Don't know why.
Interesting.
Bit of a primal top lane being picked up here by Gen G with the Gnar and the Nidalee. I like the synergy there, lore-wise. It's kind of cool. Looks like they come from a similar era. As Life is going to go back to... Oh, no. He was thinking about the Taric just to be glorious with all of his gems, but it will be the Galio in the end.
Outrageous.
Yeah, I know. Outrageous that they don't pick the Taric, to be honest.
Taric is one of those picks where into heavy AD compositions and compositions that engage linearly can be really good, but it's not a super strong pick. I think the Galio is a lot more...
Oh, yeah!
Yes! Thank you, Keen. I didn't even get a chance to talk about it because I mentioned the Gangplank earlier, and of course we were all thinking it. This is the counter matchup that we've seen go time and time again. Who has been the win condition for Afreeca this entire series? It has been Irelia. And if Afreeca actually, because I said this to you in the break, Afreeca actually like win game 1 on red side, then lose on blue side, and then win on red side again just because of this top lane counter matchup.
Straight up.
Today, I can see it happen with how Keen has been playing.
I mean, this is now the Keen buff, as well as Aurelia never losing to Gnar ever.
Yes.
Like, ever.
Yes.
In the LCK. She's like 100% win rate in this particular matchup. The only Aurelia losses that we've actually seen was, I believe, yesterday.
It was Closer.
In that mid lane with Closer, but that is not the Gnar matchup, right? You can't really apply that to this situation. This is just a really rough lane for the Gnar, and we'll see whether Clid can play around it, or whether it's going to be Dread delivered towards that top side to try and fight this one out.
The downside of the Aurelia pick here, though, is that while in terms of laning power, it's absolutely disgusting, Rascal can go for steel caps and be fairly happy because there's not that much CC outside of the Aurelia stun, and Dread brings nothing, right? And if there's someone who's going to be topside, it's generally Dread. And playing Aurelia into Azir and Galio doesn't feel great. Because the like as Aurelia, either you 100-0 someone in a team fight, or it's a skirmish, or like Ruler kills you, right? There's not a lot of space there, and what both BDD and Life can do for Ruler here is create space with the Shurima Shuffle, with a taunt. Just give him like a half a second, and Ruler's Aphelios will shred through everyone, including in Aurelia. So Keen actually does need to get a big lead in the laning phase here. But at the start of the day, I would have said it and would be like, maybe it will happen, you know, who knows? Right now, I'm scared for Rascal.
Oh, me too. Oh, Dread getting some buckshot there into both Clid and Rascal. Look at the value. Quick drawing forward. What a beast. Avoids yet another spear as well as Fly. I believe missed that Q, but that's fine. Just a bit of biffo to start this one off as Lehens once again just going to decorate the enemy jungle with a few of these wards. And they do so. These are exactly the wards that they placed down at the beginning of game number 1 to make sure they knew exactly where Clid was going to be pathing around. And it's likely to be once again one of these situations where Clid starts on his red and will path towards topside and see what he can get done up there.
The 2v2s today have been largely in favor of Keen and Dread. And I think in this scenario as well, unless you get good setup with Rascal, which is kind of hard, I don't think you win that early on just because of like the raw power of Aurelia in these type of messy skirmishes. So then you need a good Narbar, right?
Yeah.
That's not a position you get in super easily in the beginning of the lane. As BD, he loves his Azir.
He certainly does. 40 to 24. That is 64 games of Azir so far in his career. And yeah, that's a lot. Certainly one of his more played champions so far, and certainly a lot of comfort that we saw picked away from him earlier on.
Ruler missed free creeps there. That's going to be fairly painful in terms of his laning phase.
Oh, did he get the experience?
No. That's what sorry, I should clarify. That's what the observer showed us as well. Like,
he missed XP on 3.
He didn't get the experience.
Damn.
Yeah, that's
actually huge for the bottom lane.
Well, yeah, the thing is Dread is pathing away from it, so it doesn't give as much of an advantage as it otherwise would, so I'm pretty sure that Ruler and Life will be able to kind of cover for this. But you can see it as well, right? Life already level 2 here, and it is something that shouldn't really happen.
Yeah, there's a big old nah, though, as Rascal just going to get solo killed at level 2. Oh my god, Keen. I can't believe I was so nonchalant because I just wasn't expecting that kill to come through because Mega Gnar was there, gets all the health back, should be fine. Nah, isn't fine. I've seen this before, Chronicler. Oh god, and another stun. More free damage. He's under the turret. He wants to do it back to back. He's level 3. Back to back solo kills and he gets out with the flash. Oh, pack it up. We done. Give it to Afrika.
No way.
Oh no, now he's back and Clint's gonna come through! Oh, come on! That's not fair.
Oh my god, Keen!
Well, top lane's over. Now?
It's not just over. He teleport! Because listen, so this solo kill happens, right? And that should never be a thing, first and foremost. But Keen, he has the 5 stacks, then goes in, procs his Conqueror, and the stickiness of Aurelia in this early game scenario is just a nightmare to deal with. And here I was going to say, just this health trade is already really good. Any health you trade as King you'll take, right? You can back here, you can get the free back, and then you get the wave, you pick it up. But instead, he finds a freaking solo kill again!
Oh my god!
And now there's no teleport available. Yes, you die here. Boom.
But there's no assist going over. This doesn't do anything in the top lane at all.
You still have teleport available. Keen can still trade so aggressively here. Yes, due to that gank, right? And him not using his teleport, he's gonna have to wait for this wave to crash before he can actually take control of the lane again. But that's a very small window where Rascal has a semblance of control, and then it's gonna be him just being absolutely atrociously terrified of Keen, who has been playing like a monster today.
God, he is so good. And yes, this is a fantastic matchup for Aurelia, but it's not back-to-back solo kill type matchup, right? That should never happen.
Oh my god. No. That's I think it was, I'm not sure if it was yesterday even where someone said, no, it's not actually a counter. Aurelia doesn't counter now. It's more it's a strong laning matchup, right? So you can get prio and you can have pressure.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it. But I see this and I'm Keen, if he can just freeze the wave there, Rascal does not get to play the game. And
I'm putting it down Dear Diary. This top lane is 100% counter matchup territory for Aurelia. How the heck are you supposed to play it as Gnar? Looks impossible.
Yeah.
This is what Keen showed me today. That's what I'm putting in my journal.
Keen really teaching us stuff here today.
Yeah, he is.
Touching all our hearts with the scariest of Aurelia plays. And I'm really curious to see how Afrika is going to leverage this, right? Because this should, no matter what, lead to the early gold lead that's already there. Then subsequently, priority on Herald, which you can snowball into more and more and more. And this would like Afrika to go for some bot focus right now, which with the pathing of Dread could definitely come through. Shove out that bot wave, pick up an early Drake, and then you can leave Bangalore hands alone for a long time. And what we said earlier came true as well, like, they weren't actually able to get anything out of that early game. Right? Like, yes, Ruda missed 3 creeps worth of experience, but Bangalore hands couldn't actually push that. And considering how this lane has gone so far, I'm not super surprised by that.
Well, Dread once again going to find Clid, who just blast cones the graves out of there. As every time the blade surge goes off,
I don't like them going for, like, legitimately at this point. Keen is 6. Like, I think if you go for that, you just die.
Well, BDD is going to go down very low, and the line comes in there as Unleashed Power, not quite enough damage. Dread going to get the smite off for the health back. Clid does the same thing as Keen, moving on down. Oh my goodness, you see him and it looks like, you remember that Avatar movie and those really terrifying bulldozers? That's what he looks like here as Yellow Hens goes in, picks up the kill under the turret onto Clid, and Fly is going to be gifted with a fantastic lane position as Big Nah into the wall there, but this is a big Aurelia as well. And it's just not going to quite be enough to get control of the wave.
Oh, the lane is pushing away. Oh, never mind. I was like, oh, Keen, you can let it push towards you. You know, you can freeze that. Baby. But, I mean, it doesn't matter because from what we've seen thus far, if you're mini Nah and hits a stun on the turret, you're dead anyway. So why would you not just shove and get plates? Yeah, I get it.
I don't know, man. Feel like this game is already skewed completely out of position as Dread is going to face check Rascal, but who's face checking who right now as he finds the anemic Nah underneath his turret and will be denied even more. There's the heal for it to allow Bang to follow, but Ruler's going 1 versus 2. Flashes on out, Bang misses the Void Seeker, which would have won them that, but that was Ruler by himself against 2 people.
Who can carry harder, Atlas? Is it topside or
exactly.
It has been the question of this series. And it's coming into fruition here as well. Again, Ruler just showing that he is on a whole different level when it comes to ADC power. But simultaneously, like, that should be a kill 100%, right? Like, Bang, if you hit that Void Seeker, you actually punish Ruler. Instead, Ruler is able to turn it around, and this leads to a Drake. I think this is still, as a Afrika, not something that you really care about, but it is one of those things where, like, imagine if Afrika was also able to actually punish that in bot lane. Then this game will be over. Like, it would legitimately be over, right? Like, if you get these kind of leads in every lane, then all of a sudden the game becomes unsalvageable. What this does for Gen G is it means that even though, yes, Rascal is basically going to be a cute, yelling, tiny orange caster minion.
It is 100% orange buff.
The bot side is still going to be completely okay, right? Like, Rule is still going to be incredibly scary. BDD has been completely fine in his matchup. He's a wave up, and he's just going to scale and do what BDD does in the late game. So then the question becomes, how much can Afrika actually get out of this top side? And again, prior to the games earlier today, I wouldn't... yeah, that's fine. You know, that's okay. You get
Sometimes you just got to put down a collateral damage and then secure a Grump with a smoke screen. That's just part and parcel with how we do things here in the LCK as he gives us the good old the Ramus okay. That is definitely an odd way of going about it. However, sometimes you just need to press an R button. I get that itchy finger. I like it. I like it a lot.
Are we seeing it in the LCK?
Yeah, that was it was looking pretty chilly up there, wasn't it?
Oh, winter is coming, Atlas.
Oh my, don't remind
Possibly.
me. Okay, come on. You don't talk about that show ever again.
I stopped watching. I just read the books.
Oh, right.
Because I was at a point where I was
so you still like it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
It's really,
wow,
that's
that must be a weird. It must be a weird feeling.
Yeah, no, I'm never going to watch it.
Good, don't. Well, actually, watch up to season 7, I guess. Even though I wouldn't even get up that far.
I'm good. You know, the books are great.
Yeah,
really enjoyed those.
True. I felt like he explains a little bit too much. I wasn't a huge fan of the pros. As okay, Rascal, not going to get stunned this time. That would have been possibly death. As I don't know why he's still tangoing with the Aurelia, but he is. Nidalee going to be able to lock down that Mountain Drake. As we've got... oh no, my cloud senses are tingling once again.
Oh no.
Yeah.
He's doing it again.
Yeah,
Everyone at home, I need your energy.
Always bring the weather.
Give us an Infernal, okay? We can do it together, we can beat Atlas.
Well, I'm going to need all your powers combined, because apparently my my cloud abilities are just too strong.
Oh, that's interesting. They're going to go for just plates here, and I kind of get it. I feel like Keen, even though he has such a big lead, is actually kind of hard to, as Aurelia, actually push in terms of plates, right? Unless Nara is dead, because if you just give him free hyper procs, he can still turn the matchup around. And you just want to freeze Zero's Keen, which is what he's been doing, which is why Rascal is having such an atrocious time.
I actually feel like denying the Gnar is far more valuable, and you can do that much better if you don't let the wave fully head back towards the inner turret. So I like the idea. I think you're onto something with that one. As Fly unable to get too much more than the couple of plates that he was delivered. Now Freaka, they've got a bit of a shove here towards the bottom side, but once again, about a 20 CS gap for Ruler, who has just been the better player in this bottom lane so far. But I think this is a game that Freaka don't really need to do too much as a bottom lane duo. Lehen's just going to be starting these fights so that Keen can pop off towards the mid to late game.
Because one of the issues is that we're getting super hypey about Keen, which I think is justified because he's a monster. Still, I'm not loving this unless you like 100 to 0 him. Yeah, I can see him turn this. So Keen, if he can flash the stuns, might be fine here, but it's risky.
Yeah, BDD's coming up as well. Now Keen's trying to pull that wave back. Mega Gnar in a decent timing as the Gnar comes out. As Keen is just going to get around the side. Spear is going to connect there as Clid dives on forward. Keen is taken down. Unleashed Power, not enough to take down Rascal. And Keen did whatever he could, but that spear landing, that was definitely the death nail.
Yeah, BDD also roaming over there was definitely too much when I was saying maybe you can turn it around. Did not see the Azir coming up because the free man is, 2 men is outplayable. Free man is unfortunately a death sentence, even though he does start it for a fairly long time. Hands, he's the king of hooks. Doesn't even need to. No hooks. But even with Keen this fed, actually utilizing this Aurelia in a 4-1 kind of situation is still something you need to execute well on.
Well, Dred's going to dive on over. There's the depth charge onto Clid. Pulled back with the dredge line from Lehen's. And he is going to be able to lock down that kill. Heroic entrance immediately is going to be interrupted. Life gets over the wall, but Keen executes him. Now, BDD trying to get those work done. Commands those soldiers to do it, as that's a great stopwatch from Lehen's, as Keen just goes all the way around and now tries to find the pigeon. But there's a big old Gnar that they now have to deal with. Dred gets the smite off for the health back, as we can see this fight battling on both sides as Keen. Oh, he gets the tribute, but it's not quite enough to keep him alive. And once again, he is going to fall down as Ruler fighting bang on the bottom side. There was so much excitement, and now we just see 280 carries.
I kind of thought Naruto was just going to solo kill him.
Yeah, I know. I thought, let's keep the hype going, guys. Let's go.
And a couple of interesting decisions there from either team. Love the presence of mind of Freaka to just Clid's there, he's dead, right? Like, even through the exhaust, the sheer amount of damage coming through from Ignite, Depth Charge, Hook, and Dred being in melee range immediately blows up this Nidalee as, I think
you don't need to see this one again.
Played this as well as humanly possible, but like I said, I think 3 people is too much. If there's not an Azir also free hitting here, I think there's a world in which Keen lives for a little bit longer, right? And then maybe you turn it around. That's not the case. This is really cute though. Dred standing there in the Rift Heralds and Baron Pit, and then they 100 to 0. This is still looking fine. But the problem here is that Keen, by going over this wall, takes away a lot of the damage, right? Like, Dred has used his entire combo, he needs to reload, meaning that both BDD and Rascal can, in case of BDD, do a lot of damage, in case of Rascal, charge up the Narbar and be like a really, really big threat. And then we don't see this, but on the bot side, Keen actually misses a stun, which would have gotten him the free kill. Never. Thank you, Observed.
Yeah,
really
here we go.
That. If you hit that,
always got you.
Right, it's like that. Then it's just a free kill. Now you trade kills, which as Keen, I think you're still going to take, but giving shutdown gold over to BDD is a really good way to make your later game fairly unhappy.
Yep.
When push comes to shove, though, more gold on Keen is good, because I think you just want to park him in the side lane and leave it at that. Oh!
That's a big old stun as Keen. That was an interesting W to start things off. Just wanted to make sure he got the reset off the minion, I guess. But not going to eventuate into anything, as we do have an Ocean Drake taken, and let's cross our fingers. There we go. All right.
We did it.
Okay, BDD might be in trouble here, but does ulti his way out. Unleash Power, not enough. As Fly, the level of gameplay just not quite enough here. coming out of our mid laner. BDD gets to the safety of the turret for the moment. Sand Soldier's going to get to work on the wave. Spear going to go wide, and Clear just going to try and help out. Okay, they might look for the 100-0. Collateral damage comes in, and Dread cleans it up with the help of his Gale Force. Like it a lot. And yeah, Clid is having a rough game here in game number 2.
It's not just Clid having a rough game. I think this goes back to the point we were making earlier where I think we need to start talking about Dread as actually one of the strongest junglers on his current form, right? Like within the LCK, which is nuts to me, because that was not where he was at the beginning of this split. But he has been winning every jungle matchup for like the last 4 or 5 games.
Yeah.
And like,
it's wacky.
Like consistently, he's been playing so incredibly well.
Even in games that they lose, right?
Yeah.
Dread is never the problem.
And
apart from earlier in the season.
Well, yeah, well, no, definitely. But that's my point. Like, I'm impressed by how well he's been able to develop. As this is actually fairly important. Picking up that turret gold, giving it over to Ruler exclusively is the type of thing that it makes me still very apprehensive about where the series is going to go. Because what I'm not seeing here from Afrika Freaks is the start-to-finish dominance of game number 1, and that puts them in a scenario where the mistakes of game number 2 can yet again come to fruition.
Well, let's watch Dread do this again. Nice sidestep on the spear, and it's a pretty classic follow-up. As I love this, the collateral damage into the Gale Force, just to make sure that he gets all of that damage. Always looks cool when people play with their Gale Force like that. Like,
whoop, and then you win. Oh.
Beautiful.
Man.
Beautiful.
Graves, when played by like actually good players, it's so much smoother. When you try to play him himself, you're like, wait, why does he feel so clunky? Well, I need to reload. Like, what is happening? And then you see
when you
like
see
Dread,
the Graves flow, when the Graves flow works, it works real well.
I mean, I think we can all look at Kenyon as like the absolute best when it comes to that. That's basically
the quintessential Graves.
It's like one of the reasons why Domon won Worlds. There were a lot of reasons, but his Graves was definitely one of them.
Yes, I would agree.
Oh, I like this. There's no objectives on the map, so I would be amenable to this if Bang does need to be a little bit careful here.
He's baiting. 100% baiting. Yep, Rascal's just gone for a merry jaunt up the bottom lane. As you can see, though, this is going to take a bit of time. They're using Shirley as a bit of a battering ram, as now Fly taking a bit of damage, but BDD also walking the wrong direction. Genji are like, red side's been winning. Well, we're red side now, as all of them move to that side of the map. Rascal's still there as well, as you can see. You can see there's a Graves on the bottom side of the map. He's taking an inner turret, but it's being traded 1 for 1. That's an interruption onto Rascal, as Bang's going to find melee range, but this is a mini-Naz, a very different circumstance. However, maybe he's created enough distance.
Graves
the big old hop's going to do it. As the Graves is pretty scary as well, even though he is at half health. As there they go, they get themselves the vision, and the Acathian Rain will do it. Bang secures the solo kill in the end, but just was a bit of Rascal being between a rock and a hard place.
It took so long as well. I think that they thought that he got away there. They kept looking for him, and they kept waiting, and then eventually they were able to pick up what feels like should have picked him up a minute ago. And if you don't find this Void Seeker, the play just basically doesn't happen. Bang using a supercharge there offensively is something that I don't think is really necessary, and he gets away with it, right? Like he still has flash and heal.
I think he didn't need to Gale Force there, I don't think.
No, because if you like, he has to path into you. There's a Nautilus coming up behind him. He doesn't have the Narbar. It's giving up some consistency of the play to get a little bit more speed, a little bit more tempo. And this is a story we've been telling of this game. It's top side versus bot side.
Well, here's a bit of a team fight as there's the flash out from Lehens. Aftershock doing a lot of work as he gets stunned up by the Gravitum. This blue buff very confused, but finally does get a little bit of attention.
That hook. I'm like, that's one of those hooks where, like, as Nautilus, you're like, actually, I didn't want to throw that. I'm very happy it didn't hit anyone, because...
take it all back, I take it all back.
No. I want that.
They need to be fighting around Keen as well, because he has a lot of their money. Yes, Dread has a big advantage, but you got to realize that if you're playing 4v4 and your Aurelia's not there, then you're actually at a disadvantage in a lot of cases.
But this is the problem that I have with the Afrika comp, as opposed to game number 1, where I feel like it was something where they could reliably team fight. If you don't find a flanking position as Keen, it's actually really hard to have a reliable impact, again, because of the deterring factors on the side of Genji. If Rascal is close to Mega, you're in trouble. If life is anywhere near you, you can't go in because you will get taunted. BDD has the shuffle, which if he doesn't use it offensively, which let's be honest, BDD can definitely do that if he sees an opening. But if he doesn't and he holds it, then Keen doesn't actually have a lot of space to go in.
Oh, here's the engage. Emperor's Divide's going to be flashed there by Fly, but he's still going down extraordinarily low. Vanguard's Edge into the backline. Killer Instinct to follow up as well as Life. He's getting focused by Keen. Takes a lot of the aggro away as it's an even trade in the end. Fly keeps himself alive as BDD now going to get stunned up and punished by Keen. I think Keen could have had a little bit of a different focus there to help things out, but they still win the fight.
It's still an advantageous trade, and it will get them to a second Drake. However, the Drake-taking rate of all of these games, Red, has been incredibly low, Atlas. Like, it's something that we haven't really talked about yet, but this is, again, it's 21 minutes. There's games where people are at soul point here, and you're playing for, like, the final Drake. But both of these teams are so incredibly focused on early game power that I feel like they should be able to do this, but with how good Ruler has been playing, I can't really fault them, and there comes the teleport, and it's even going to be Gen G who gets the Drake.
Yeah, this is a little bit sad for Afrika, unfortunately. Fly could have gone back and actually teleported back in with full health, potentially, but look, this is all hindsight, and that is, of course, 2020. It's still a 2,000 gold lead for Afrika, and like you say, these Drakes have been well and truly delayed, so it's only Drake number 2 for Gen G. Pardon me, that was a bit of a hiccup. Mid-sentence, but yes. Let's have a look at this fight one more time. The Emperor's Divide flashed there by Fly quite nicely, but still takes a lot of damage. Vanguard's Edge is very good.
And that's the one way that you do have an impact. Also, Lehan's treading the needle there on the hook, is finding a big Vanguard's Edge and limiting the mobility of your opponents. But as you say, like, Keen goes really deep for BDD here because he doesn't find the reset earlier on. So, because as you can see here, like, this Vanguard's Edge, absolutely glorious, right? Really good flash from Fly as well.
Oh, the barely sidestepping.
Because now they're stuck in there. But the problem is that the moment that they get out of that zone and you don't get the Q reset, you're just like, you're Aurelia, and like, just awkwardly kind of walk after them.
Ooh, quick draw's good. As there's the dredge line, another one that you could regret, but Lehens isn't going to. There's the Moonlight Vigil to come through for the stun. Speaking of stuns, Fly gets in there. Collateral damage doing a lot of work as another Emperor's Divide comes down and snags 2. Ruler grabbing his first kill. Fly limping away from this fight as Keen looking to get towards the backline, but you can see, oh, Ruler getting tagged. Vanguard's Edge comes in as now it's the Keen show. Looking for the resets as Clear trying to run away. There are 4 people still alive, but the Aurelia is still terrifying. He has no flash, sidesteps the needle quite nicely. He gets on in. Oh, that is beautiful from BDD. Gets another cooldown on the Blade Surge and does execute the Aurelia.
That was so cleanly played there from Gen G, and this is where we see the big difference between these two teams. Even with all the credit we're giving Afrika, you can't count out Gen G. They can find these openings just through impeccable mechanical play, and I want to draw attention to the fact that this is also, if I'm not mistaken, a team fight that started without your strongest member, right? So they need to play it slow, they need to try and kite back, but this scatter is kind of the sign that, okay, never mind, we're going to go for it. And I think they see, look at this, spear from Clit there. From that point on, they exactly know where Keen is. Ruler getting hit by the scatter there creates a situation in which it's still possible for them to get a play, but with Rascal transforming into Maganav form, Bang doesn't actually get to do any more damage. Keen is stuck here in the middle without actually having a reset, and then he goes for the Q on top of BDD. And it looks kind of trouble. Like, Keen is never going to be in a position here where anyone on Gen G actually allows him to get a Q reset, right? Like, they're all taunting him, like walking back and forth. Yeah. But he's a melee, even though it doesn't feel like that way with Aurelia's auto attack range. Like, you're melee, and they don't need to really get into your range. And it's so close. You can taste Afrika, right? Like, you can sense how close that's actually winning these skirmishes, but it needs to be a little bit cleaner. Bang needs to get a little bit more done, right? Like, he needs to find more damage, because if he gets blown up, you can't rely on just Dread and Keen to do the damage. And Fly's scatters have been super good as well, and now it's a Baron loss, and they're still pushing?
Yeah, this is like Afrika actually pulling back that Baron power play. As Ruler sitting here up in the mid lane. He's a trebuchet this game, by the way. Like, they are playing around him, and Lehens knows that. Flashes on in. Gets taunted for his trouble, but they do at least bully Gen G away from this turret. That is very, very aggressive. Ruler, no flash, no heal. Now going to move towards this bottom lane to grab this inner turret. So, Gen G do manage to pull Afrika around the map enough in order to grab themselves an objective. Now teleporting into the mid lane to set up the siege here.
And you need to really respect the damage that's going to come out of it, because this is like game 2, right? Like, lose one fight here and the game is just immediately over.
Oh yeah.
They don't really have a flanking position. This is not the position you want to be in as Afrika. Like, straight up engaging into the composition of Gen G is kind of a nightmare for all the reasons we talked about previously. And the poke war, you're also not really going to win against a Nidalee Azir. So it's a tough position to be in, and I think as Afrika just need to try and weather the storm, hold on for the next 45 seconds, and hopefully be able to contest this Drake. I don't think Gen G is going to give you the opportunity though, which means they will be at soul point, synchronized recalls. You love to see it here. I say as
Rascal sticking
like,
around.
Nope, I'm not going to listen to you, you silly, silly caster. Going to shove the wave, get prio. And I think it's fine in this specific instance. Maybe he also doesn't have anything particularly useful to buy, as long as he doesn't die.
Well, he's just going to try and keep control of this wave. Has that Baron-empowered minion buff, so it's going to allow him to deny Afrika any shove out here in the mid lane, which will get them positional advantage around this Drake, and guarantee that Infernal Soul point like you were talking about. I like the play. You can see Afrika not going for anything, flies up towards the top side. And Wit's End now completed for Keen. See whether he actually ever builds a Mythic this game, but so far going for a little bit more of that on-hit build with the Sterix for some safety.
And it's understandable considering what happened last game, or what happened last fight rather. Like, where was the damage really coming from? It was mainly BDD just autoing with soldiers, right? And like a Nidalee Spear that Clit started the fight off with. Both of those are now kind of alleviated as... that one was for the viewers, right? That was Dread saying,
very cute.
Sup, guys? I'm here. He doesn't know, but you guys know. You can see what's happening here.
I like the little doggo at the end. That was my favorite part. This game's still very, very close, Chronicler. It's it's interesting. Like, it feels like Gen G have a lot of the control, and they're playing around Ruler, you know, the super carry of Gen G. In fact, probably our biggest super carry from the 80 carry role that we have here in the LCK, and he is scary on this Aphelios right now, but there is a world where he just gets executed by Keen diving into a backline, finding a stun, there's a killer instinct to follow up, and things like that. Lehens is creating a ruckus, and Dread's also doing a lot of damage. Like, Afrika, there is a world where they find these team fights.
In a world where
coming this summer,
Keen gets even more solo kills.
One desire, just take down the Aphelios. That's all we need to do. Can we do it?
We'll have to find out, I think, maybe in the next installment of team fights in this game, as we are certainly doing a bit of a K-Ram. Gen G decide to opt out.
And as you said, you focused on Ruler. I think that's completely justifiable. If he lives, your fight becomes really hard. Unfortunately for Afrika, Gen G is, BDD is also an absolute monster, right? Like, he's gone for a much tankier build, which is really interesting, but I actually quite like this considering the state of the game, where you're facing off against a team with basically no front line, but a whole lot of damage, right? Like, everyone on that opposing team wants to kill you, besides Lance, who wants to kill you, but he needs help.
I mean, he wants to.
Yeah,
it's just not going to work,
he's just not going to be able to, but like, he will try. And then you have BDD, who's went for Merc Threads, right? He's gone for Halo Blades, which, in terms of late game teamfight damage, is also not nearly as strong.
Oh yeah,
but does allow
I didn't check that one out. This is like the first time I've seen Halo Blades for quite some time on the Azir.
But
we had a
does allow
conversation about this earlier. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, no, completely fine. Because it is interesting, right? And like, what it allows BDD to do is like take control of the lane. He does have 40 CS lead, I think, in terms of laning power. He is also someone that can definitely outmatch Fly. But my point being, BDD being tankier just means that he can just do damage for the entirety of this fight. And between Demonic Embrace and Leandries, it's going to be so much. And the effective health that it gives him, the time that it buys him, with a comp like this, I think is going to work out really, really well for them. So some interesting itemization choices here coming out from both sides. And these straight-up 5v5 scenarios are so hard to play for Afrika. It's all going to come down to what can Keen do.
And what can Lehens start as well as Keen? Speaking of which, he's going to have to go golden at the very beginning of this one. See whether he can get some resets as he flashes immediately over the wall. Now, Life has to use his stopwatch as well. Rascal now getting closed in on. by the Aurelia, but she keeps herself alive, has to use Flash, has to use Stopwatch. And that is a huge deal. Gen G think that it's enough to get them a Baron. We'll have to find out whether it is. As Ruler as well now sitting on both summoner spells. Every defensive ability that he has is still available.
And you can notice how tense this is, because as either team, if you lose the fight here, the game is basically over, right? You might not outright lose your Nexus, but you're going to lose complete tempo, you're going to lose control of your base, inhibitors are going to get cracked open, and particularly for Afrika, that's a really bad situation. Maybe they'll be forced into a trade between Soul for Gen G and Baron, where Afrika just get an Infernal Drake and then Gen G get Baron, which is a trade they'll take anytime that they can. Afrika doesn't care, or they don't care about Afrika getting one Infernal, and it looks like that's what's going to happen. I love that from Gen G, realizing like, why would we go to Baron? Like, I don't think you guys can do Baron, and even if you do, if we get Soul, that's completely okay. Then you do actually need to mind your timings though, because Dragon is still 35 seconds away, and Afrika have started the Baron here. They go through it quick.
Yep, Lahen's going to get missed, but is spotted by the sweeper. Here's the teleport in. This is going to be a battle. We'll see whether the Baron is going to be included in that. There's the dredge line. Lahen's gnarred into the wall, but he's the only one hit by the CC. Now Fly trying to look for a flank, but I don't know whether it's going to be enough, as there's the Sterix. The shield going to be taken down. The Kaiser eliminated. The Aurelia gets the same treatment. Dread now trying to run away, and Ruler and BDD do way too much damage. Gen G will win the fight, and this may just be the game.
And Dread is running away. He gets Grump. That's not something you're going to be happy with. And I said, maybe if you lose the fight, it won't be immediately be the end of the match. Gen G, they don't even care about the Soul. They don't need it. And it is yet again BDD on his trademark Azir that, in my opinion, finds the win. He finds the shuffle with the two most important members. Keen can't do anything. Ruler, hero that he is, immediately flashes forward into an Aurelia as a Aphelios, just to blow them up. And Gen G is really okay, we just get the inhib, we get the Soul, and then we path to Baron, and then the game is basically over. And I think that that's what's going to happen here. So again, they take a lot of damage from Baron here. There's not actually any sustain on the sides of Afrika, but this fight still seems a little bit doable when Keen doesn't get hit. But there's so much damage down already, and look at BT, look at this. It forces Dread away,
both
and
carries.
Gets Bang and the Aurelia from Keen. And then Ruler flashes forward, they die, end of the game. That's
just beautiful.
Oh.
Life as well, the heroic entrance to make sure you could layer the CC at the same time, as we just had an inhibitor taken, so the game isn't in fact over.
Do it.
The Infernal Soul
Flip it.
Is taken.
Flip it.
We're doing this one more time, okay? This is the sequel. We'll see whether it's better than the original, as Life not going to find the Justice Punch. The Baron is secured by Afrika. That's a decent stun, and then the pick off as Bang dives into the backline. Looks to try and create a rocket as he flashes the Emperor's Divide, and BDD is taken out of the fight, but Ruler is the other carry in this one, and he is so scary. Aurelia already dealt with, Ruler at full health with the long-range weapons, and now it's just Afrika trying to get the hell out of here. And wins the war, not quite enough. There is now Bang looking to try and dive on top of Glid, wants to get the takedown, does so easily. And yep, that wasn't going to be it there for Bang. However, they got a Baron. We're still in the game, you know?
In Spirit, definitely.
No, Spirit was replaced by Dread unfortunately.
Oh no, too soon, man, too soon. And I actually think it's that Kai'Sa Nautilus combination that we talked about earlier, because BDD can basically do nothing in that fight because he gets depth charged immediately during the Killer Instinct from Kai'Sa. So they blow up BDD. The problem is, you don't need to kill just BDD, you also need to kill Ruler. And Ruler had enough peel that Keen tried to jump on top of him, and then they was like, haha, no, there's a Galio here. And then Keen died, and then that's not where you want to be. And this is I think this goes back to what we said at the beginning of the game. Yes, Aurelia, monstrously fed, but if you are in a situation like this where you can't really force a 4-1 type of scenario, where you can keep Keen in the side lane, where he can just duel basically everyone, and even sometimes two people, in a straight up 5v5, it's so hard. And you need to kill both BDD and Ruler. If you get one, no. That's especially with the Soul. No, need both. But you won't get both, which is kind of a problem.
It's a little bit too hard. I actually kind of want Keen to build a Sunfire Aegis. I know it sounds weird.
No, it's
but think about all of the items that they have. I agree. He'd have so much tenacity.
No, I agree.
And it'd be very hard to keep him out of the fight. However, we're a long way away from that. Looks like GA is on the way here for the Aurelia. And look, you've got a 2-7 Gnar just getting straight hard carried by this Aphelios and the Azir.
To give credit to Rascal, I feel like his team, like he's recognized, guys. I am just here to press R when anyone comes near Ruler. That's my job. That's all I need to do. Just do that. That's really that. There's a Dread.
And now Dread's just going to do a drive-by. He's like, this is my Tommy gun. Check it out. Okay, I'm out of here.
See ya.
Yeah, and he did that. As okay. That's a flash. Had to use that. Had to use that valuable button in order to.
Lahens giveth and Lahens taketh away. In this case, his own flash.
In this case, a fair bit of taketh away. As we can see, Afrika now grouped back up as 5. Another Dread line is going to connect. This time it's on to live. Good layering of CC right now as Dread locks down the Gargoyle. The teleport in from Rascal. He's like, where did everyone go?
He gives. Lahens gives.
Yeah, there we go. I guess we're back to the taketh away. Let's keep our eye on Lahens and see what's going to happen. Certainly never a dull moment.
Not one day. Not one dull day. And yes, as Gen G, you're in a really good position. I'm fairly certain that if you play this one out cleanly, if you just play for the Elder and you force him to come into you in a straight up 5v5, you'll be fine. And at this point, we didn't finish making fun of Lahens, right? Like,
and we're not going to anymore, actually.
Oh no. I wouldn't dare. And then she just gets blown up, and it's not even like it doesn't actually open up the map. It doesn't actually give you anything here as a freak out, but it does end that push, and that's all you really need at this point in time. The problem is that soul is so much value because talk about everyone on freak having damage is basically the same kind of scenario for the jungler, mid, and AD carry all can make great use of this. And Ruler in a scenario like this is just a nightmare. I think the only one who I'd argue that can match him in like late game teamfight prowess would be like maybe Teddy, and that's pretty much it. I
actually feel like T1's bottom lane, as it currently stands, is probably the only one comparable to Gen G right now.
Yeah, and then it's so hard. It's like what a freak needs to do here is find an absolute miracle of a team fight. And in terms of setup, they don't have map control, right? Because normally maybe King can get a big teleport flank, right? Maybe you can like make a play from Fog of War. Maybe Lahens can find an angle. But none of that will really work, as you see even Lahens, like Nidalee with Ocean Soul scales pretty decently. Like we give Nidalee a lot of flack for being like, nah, she needs to do something early game, and then she goes Night Harvester. Where is our Moonstaff? Nidalee, like, which is fair. I don't disagree with that argument. But in case of specifically Infernal Soul Nidalee, even at 40 minutes into the game, you're like, sure. You know, that's... Look!
Ow!
Look!
That's a nuke. It is straight up a nuke.
Oh.
As Dread wants to eat some popcorn chicken. Thankfully, it's about to spawn as a Freaker. Just trying to hold on to this newly respawned inhibitor.
Fly is not your flanker. That is not who you want. It's just going to be gone.
Yeah. Keen teleports towards the bottom side. They do have vision of the area, but Keen walks over a control ward. He knows that he's been seen. And yeah, that's just a free Elder. Now there is no way a Freaker can fight. They've been struggling to win team fights already. And I think the Elder Drake is just going to be a little bit too much.
Unless... No, I don't have an unless. Like I usually do. But
unless Genji's hands fall off.
But I think in League of Legends we've had a lot of unless situations. We talked about the heritage of SKT being a team that no matter what the goal deficit was, they could find a way. If there was an angle, they would find it. Unfortunately for Afrika Freaks in this game, Riot introduced Elder Buff. Elder Buff doesn't allow for those kind of scenarios. Yes, Dread gets out, but the Baron is taken, and there is no amount of like outplay and like.
You can't outplay a giant dragon coming from the sky to rip you apart. It's just
doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't. It's a little bit too much. As Afrika now just trying to push out their waves as much as possible. They do manage to get bot and mid to a decent spot as Bang cancels a few of his recalls. Definitely didn't want to do that as there is a 5-man stack of Gen G pushing towards their top inhibitor. They will be able to transition to the mid lane one as well. Needless to say, they don't need a minion wave whatsoever. Keen still just trying to run them around the map right now, as Gen G without minions are going to struggle to pressure forward. So this game is continuing. It's an odd one.
This kind of feels like, you know, it's like a necromancer situation where you see this zombie like still shuffling around. You're like, oh. I mean, we need to be careful about that.
What?
But
which necromancer? When you say necromancer, I think that like I'm just maxing skeletons in Diablo 2, so I don't really.
Well, like I don't know, like there's a necromancer on the loose in Summoner's Rift, and then instead of like,
right.
but the game is the. I don't think it was a very good analogy.
I quite understand.
I feel like I completely lost a friend there somewhere.
Yeah.
No, I was
who's
kind of
coming back to life?
I was well, not a freak out.
Yeah, well.
I was kind
we'll
of waiting
see.
for you to save me from that one instead.
Yeah, no,
throw
sorry.
me to the wall.
Yeah, you deserve to be
okay.
under the bus
That's
for that
okay.
one, to be honest. And I just wanted any excuse to talk about Diablo 2's necromancer. I loved it. Back in the day. Not none of these teeth builds that the speedrunners do. That ain't fun. Just
Can we
max
bring this
skeletons.
game alive? I'm gonna go on a limb and say no, Atlas, but a freak out. Try to prove me wrong.
That's a lot of inhibitors that are now dead as Lehens comes for the flank. Looks for Ruler there in the back line. He does go down to his GA as Emperor's Divide. Only on to Keen, who goes down to his GA as well. Bang is eradicated. I have a feeling the wallets are too heavy as Genji stand fast and take down a Freaker. It's a triple kill somehow for the Nidalee, who decides that he wants to be a bit of a carry towards the end of this one. Nicely done by Glid, but here we go. Genji with their Infernal Soul, their Elder Drake, and their Baron are going to be able to take this one down as PDD says, take down the Nexus, and they say, with pleasure, sir. Genji get that best of 3 reverse sweep and manage to put down a Freaker, but I'm starting to get on board, right? Like at the beginning of this series, I was like, no, a Freaker are just a cut below. But this was competitive. This did see some signs of life, and unfortunately Keen wasn't able to transition his huge advantage in the laning phase into a victory, but still, this is certainly still good news, I believe, for Afrika.
And as a whole, I am thoroughly impressed with, on one hand, the mental fortitude coming out here from Genji, because we keep going on and on about how like they're this early game team, right? Like they snowball leads and they do it well. And on the other hand, like you see the shattered faces here coming in from Afrika. But honestly, in that game number 2, with the draft, with the comps that you had, it was always going to be an uphill battle if you don't find the early lead. They find the early lead, but they're not able to actually turn it into more than that, to actually find the early Drakes. And that's, I think, something that they played really well on the last time, or the last series that we saw them play. It's a deserved victory for Genji, and I feel like it's also what still kind of separates these two teams. Where Afrika, they're starting to emerge as an actual strong team. And like we always, it takes a while for you to kind of shake it off, right? Because we've seen Liv Sandbox do what they 2-0, and then the next game they're back to...
Yeah, back to 10th place.
Yeah.
Which is not so good.
No, and I think that slowly we can get excited about Afrika, but it also shows us that why Genji is not just a pop stomper. Like they don't just stomp. There is a reason why this team got the quarterfinals of Worlds. Right? And yes, they got smashed by G2, as is customary, unfortunately. as I say, with pain in my heart.
One of our teams needs to do it, right? One of our teams needs to be destroyed. Thankfully, Damwon avoided it this time around. Or that time around, I guess.
Yeah.
We'll have to see what happens as we move further on.
But I do think that what separates Genji is that in these moments, like the clutch plays and playing around, how do we always win this game? Who do we need to execute and how? And that, like the way they position in team fights and the way that they pick out targets consistently, Keen didn't get to play that game because unlike many other teams, like BDD and Ruler, I think specifically them two, like never gave an opening. Just didn't happen.
Yeah. We're going to check out some of the highlights from that game, and of course, it's going to start pretty well for Afrika as we see, like, Keen deserves everything for this extraordinary sort of back-to-back solo kill that we see up here. Probably one of the greatest solo performances we've seen in early laning phase for a very long time.
This is, that's me in solo queue when I'm like playing against Aurelia and I'm just like, this champion's not fair, but then but then now it's Rascal, which is like one of the best top laners in the LCK that gets pummeled. It says a lot about how well Keen has been playing today. And I think that even for all the things Afrika did really well today, the reason why they were in the end not able to actually make it work, like you can look at a draft where in a late game situation it's actually hard to leverage, right? But it also comes down to like these split-second moments, like bang, if he can just eke out a little bit more damage here, right? Like if he doesn't get 1v1 by Rascal there, if he can back up Keen a little bit more.
If Keen had have got the kill actually onto life, got that extra reset, and like then actually killed Cleared, that could have just been him getting a pentakill.
Yeah,
and it could have been a very different story.
Exactly, and there's a lot of these moments where I feel like if Afrika keep this line up, then there is a possibility for them to get to a point where they can actually challenge Gen G in later game situations like this. But right now, this is what I'm talking about. Like, this is the type of hero plays that a team like Gen G, a team like Damwon Kia has, that you just don't see from like the lower ranked teams. ㅅ is of course also like, ㅅ of course is also one of the players that we give a lot of credit for this, and this is as good as your fight gets, right? Like you get on top of Ruler, you're blowing up in his GA with a cute flank here from the hands, and that's all nice and dandy, but he has GA, and then that's basically it. BDD is just free hitting in the back. Rascal gets honored for like tilt proof in this series. And Gen G as a whole, this is the kind of series that you look to and say like, we always talk about Gen G, and this is something that we go on and on about, like, not only are they like an early game team, but if they're not an early game team, they're a team that has a difficulty against teams that are better than them. And I want to see just Gen G, because if they can play this good, if they can do these kind of things, make these kind of plays, execute it mechanically, I know they have it in them to also do it against the Damwon Kias of the world.
And do it in playoffs. That's what we need to see. We need to start having these conversations because we are in round 2, but Gen G in playoffs hasn't been the same force. We have a different playoffs format, and I'm hoping that helps Gen G sort of get over that awkward situation, you know, like taking first place and then getting 3-zipped like we saw in spring last year. But 31.7k damage for BDD. He was so incredibly good in this game. There were some decent scatters from Fly, but I felt like the laning phase was a little bit forgettable.
Yeah.
As BDD was sort of given free reign. Headed up towards topside and was like able to help take down the Aurelia at the same time, like trying to mitigate some of the issues that happened.
Dread is also one of the guys that we talked about a lot today, and I think justifiably so.
Yeah, I agree.
If you look at this, actually insane. And as a whole, I think Gen G, very well deserved, but a really fun series. I was kind of expecting this one to either be like Afrika just not being able to match, and Gen G just kind of 2-0ing them, as Gen G are wont to do. But instead, it was like a legitimately super interesting series in which we saw the development from Afrika, but also the reason why Gen G is in the place that they are right now.
No, exactly. And it's starting to feel a little bit like we've got a top 2 right now. And Gen G certainly not performing as consistently today in comparison to others, but this is still another match win and shows a lot of resolve. So congratulations to Gen G. And now we're going to go over to the analyst desk to break down that final game of the series. So here's Jisun.
Thank you very much, guys. And after a very long series, Gen G was able to take away the match victory up against Afrika Frix. And we know that Aurelia is stomping Gnar currently in this meta, and Keen was able to show the reason why once again. We saw a lot of hype around Aurelia, and Keen was playing up to that expectation. And indeed, he did show a great performance, but outside of that, I just want to point out how Ruler plays this Aphelios, or the pick that is secured for Ruler. Ruler actually was known to not tend to play Aphelios, but Gen G stick to this Aphelios into Kai'Sa matchup. And this time around, Gen G today, they were not trying to stick to Aphelios together with Thresh. I think Gen G was just confident about this Aphelios matchup into Kai'Sa. When it comes down to this matchup, Kai'Sa is a champion that can look for a gank in order to shut down Aphelios, because this champion does not have any dash to survive. But Gen G had this confidence that Afrika today, they are playing always around the top side of the map. So Ruler had this confidence, or he felt safe enough to play Aphelios, and they had a lot of skill sets to kind of block Irelia to dive onto Aphelios as well. For example, like Tonton coming out from Galio, but still Irelia had a lot of impact in the early game. So let's take a look at the back-to-back solo kill from Keen. So let's rewind back to 40 minutes before. The first solo kill was like, yeah, we kind of realized once again why Irelia is a counter into Gnar, but the second one was something on another level. Can't believe Keen is a player that goes into this kind of a shot. What even amazed me is Rascal also played this Gnar into Irelia, or maybe Irelia into Gnar matchup. He knew how to bully Gnar with this Irelia, but this time around he was on the receiving end and Keen was able to bully so hard. But when we transition into team fight phase of the game, Irelia is more like a diving in assassin, whereas Gnar is more like a team player and a role player. So because Gen.G knew about the matchup during the laning phase, they were still going for the Gnar blind pick. Let's take a look at the later team fight. We want to highlight how Africa was able to actually look for a Hail Mary play. So when Ruler got the ulted by Nautilus, he actually hides behind the wall. He runs away from the enemy's vision, and then once Azure goes back in for counter engage, he flashes forward to follow up with the damage. Whenever we're watching Gen.G's games, well, in the later phase, their mid and bottom duo actually set up a lot of plays and close out the game. Those kind of play, it's impossible to set up beforehand, you know. I'll just like hide behind the wall if I get ulted by Nautilus, so Azure go back and I'll follow up with Flash. It just the sign that Gen.G players, they're always playing on the same page and they're so well connected. And with this win, Gen.G is extending their winning streak to number 5, and Ruler picks up the POG on Aphelios. Very high kill participation, not that high damage at the end of the game, but as a whole, Ruler was the kind of insurance that Gen.G was banking on for the late game turnaround. Every time, in every team fight, Africa had no kind of tool to kind of get closer to Aphelios. He was the pillar of Gen.G. He did a lot of work during the laning phase and also in the team fight. Aphelios is a champion that does not have a high survivability, and he was not this time around together with Thresh, but still, he was able to stay intact and do a lot of work. Africa went in for the Hail Mary pick play onto Ruler at the end, but still Ruler was able to remain alive, and a very competitive POG between the mid laner and the AD carry, and Ruler is always getting the POG whenever he's playing Aphelios. Now let's invite BDD Ruler for this POG interview. Congratulations on your win. Thank you. After a 3-game series, you guys are now having a 5th straight win in the LCK. How are you feeling? It was a very tough game, but I'm glad that we won. And Ruler? I think it was so difficult, it was so hard, so it's a big relief. BDD, even though you lost game 1, we just want to ask you about Fly playing Azir, and you saw some green. We saw some green on your face when Fly picked it. What was that supposed to mean? I mean, Fly, he never played Azir, so that was something that we did not expect. So because he took it away and locked it in, it was like we were just so flustered a little bit. So maybe that's why I smiled. How was playing into Fly's Azir then?
되게
I
되게
think
괜찮았던 것 같아요.
it was decent.
여러 의미가 있을 것 같습니다. 그럼 뭐 뱀픽적인 것도 인게임도 변수가 돼서 1세트는 조금
So
뭐
Africa with that new strategy was able to take away the win, but Gen.G came online starting from game 2.
2세트도 그렇고 오늘 전반적인 흐름을
Overall,
다른 부분에서 약간 젠지가 팀적으로
I think Gen.G,
고생을 하더라도
even though some parts of the game was not going well, they were keep funneling all the gold into Ruler, and Ruler was the insurance for Gen.G.
뭐 이거는 흐름이 나쁘지 않나.
So did you also have this confidence that you guys can close out the game based on the power that Ruler had?
일단 게임 자체에서 바텀이 그냥 2대2
In this game, our bottom duo always was able to secure priority 2v2. So we wanted to look for fights in the side lanes. Then that's basically how we played.
또 이제 좀 재미있는 게 어제 매치가 이제 LCK 팬분들에게 많은 인상을 줘서
Yesterday we had a lot of hype series, and we are now seeing more and more new champion picked for the mid lane. We used to have a lot of control mage matchup, but now we are moving on to some new meta. And we have a new patch coming up, so what's your expectation about mid lane matchup in the upcoming patch and meta?
지금 루시안 정도가
I think Lucian
메이지 할 때 조금 까다롭다고
is a very tricky pick for mage champions.
아직 그 부분 그
But
구도는
that was the matchup that existed in the worlds as well, but I'm not sure which one is like better. I don't think the mid lane matchup will change drastically unless one of the mage champion will get nerfed so bad.
그리고 이 경기에서 이제 BDD 선수가 신드라로
In game 2, BDD,
적중률이 엄청 났었거든요.
you were landing almost every scattered week. In game 2, do you know how many percentage have you landed in that game? It was a point for sure. So we have the CC score ready for you. Well, actually, we manually counted your scattered week and saw how many of them have had landed. This game 2, I like none of them actually missed. Well, so it was 26 out of 38, so 68% was your CC score in that game, especially for the scattered week. Any tip on using that skill or lending that skill?
천천히 쓰는 게
You have to use it slowly. Take it slow. That's something I realized not long ago.
최근에 깨달았어요.
Recently, I just realized I have to use my ability slowly. Do you mean like slowly in like speed, or like you have to like use the other tempo? Yeah, you have to like mix your auto between the QE combo, you know? Don't go straight for the QE.
0.1초 느리기, 0.2초 느리기 그런 거라 가지고 저희가 열심히
Thank you for the tip, Miriri. But let's move over to game 3. Tristana used to be a counter pick into Kaisa, and you only played Aphelios for once in the split, so why were you sticking to Aphelios today?
저희 꿍코치님이 오늘
Gung today, our coach, told us if you play Aphelios, I think we're gonna win. So that was the reason why. But usually Aphelios is a champion that usually go together with Thresh. But Gen.G, you guys were trying different support for Aphelios. You guys focused on the Aphelios pick itself. Is that because Aphelios is on top of the tier list, or is that something about the comp?
저도 잘 모르겠어요.
Well, to be honest, I don't know. It was a message from our coach, you know, just play Aphelios and we're gonna win.
스레시랑 같이 쓰면 좋은 것도
Together with Thresh, I know it is super strong.
더 많은 조합을 쓸 것
I
같아요.
think we will try more and more comps for the Aphelios duo on the bottom lane.
그리고 이제 룰러 선수
And
오늘
Ruler,
평소 라스칼 선수가
Rascal was having a rough day today, unlike other days.
이제 젠지 하면은 룰러 선수가 생각이 나니까 여쭤보는 건데
So we have a question.
어떤 말을 해줬는지 라스칼 선수
If
들어볼 수 있을까요?
Gen.G players tried to cheer him up.
일단은 좀 정신 나가 하는 것 같길래.
Yeah, he was like losing his mind.
괜찮다고.
But we were kept telling him it's okay, like everything's fine. We're winning bots and something like that.
그러면 그 와중에는 딱 룰러 앞에 내가 크고 있으니까.
Ruler, were you like, I'm playing Aphelios, I'm gonna carry the late game?
그냥 일단 라인전 이기고 있다.
I was like, I just we're winning lane. That was it.
하면 이제 이길 수 있다고 말씀하셨으니까 네, 좀 승리를
And that really happened at the end of the series.
다음 경기는
Your
리브
next
샌드박스와의
opponent will be
경기입니다.
Leave
이기면
Sandbox,
6연승을
and
달성하게 되시는
it's
건데요.
gonna be your
과거와
sixth
비디디
consecutive one if you manage to take them down as well.
오늘 경기력이 좀 불안하긴 했는데
We
다음 경기까지
performed
꼭 보완해서
shaky
좋은
today,
모습
so we
보여드리도록
would like to get rid of the
노력하겠습니다.
mistakes and come back stronger.
다음 경기는 오늘보다 더 좋은 모습 기대하겠습니다. 룰러 선수도
And
각오하고요. 팬분들께 한마디도
Any message over to the fans as well?
일단은 저희가
I think
좀
we
괜찮은 경기력을 조금씩
didn't
보여드리고
perform
있는데
today,
다음 샌드박스
or maybe these
전에서는
days
좀
we didn't
보완된 모습으로
perform.
많이
So I hope to come back stronger in that
노력할
Sandbox
테니까
series. So
부탁드립니다.
keep supporting us. Thank you.
저희도 많은 기대를 하겠습니다.
And this will be the end of the
오늘
interview
이렇게
from
해서
BDD
룰러
Ruler
선수와
from
인터뷰까지
Genji, and I'm gonna pass it back to our
감사합니다.
casters. Thank you.
축하드립니다.
감사합니다.
Thank you so much, Ji-sun, for the translation of the interview and the analyst test. That was a long one, is what it sort of felt like to me. But Ji-sun, of course, expertly navigating us through. Good to hear that good old Rascal is not feeling too bad. We're having a bit of a chat, sort of off air, about the fact that